trying to drag it to the net. A shot by Taylor Hall. The loose puck. Hall scores. It bounces free, and Taylor Hall bats it home. His third goal of the playoffs, and the Canes win it in overtime.
Back out to Brunson, rising at the horn, and that's good. What a half for New York. Jalen Brunson makes it 74-51.
Well, that's how it sounded on Rock 104.1 for the Flyers, 97.3 ESPN for the Sixers. Yeah, forget about Cinco de Mayo. How about Stinko de Mayo for those two games last night? Aaron Nola dominated the Marlins. That was good. The Knicks crushed the Sixers, and a heartbreaking loss for the Flyers, who are up 2-0 early in the game. First 5 minutes of the game, they go up 2-0. They lose it overtime 3-2. 3 unanswered goals from Carolina. They go up 2-0 in the series. The Sixers just got the doors blown off them, and I'm okay with that. We got so much to dive into today. Phillies win 1-0. They've now won 7 of 9. But Bryce Harper said something that I thought was interesting. We'll get into it all right here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And, of course, you can watch the show live on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel. Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there. I don't even know where you want to start. Do you feel like the Flyers are done down 2-0? Do you think that at least they fought back and showed a little something, they get in their home building, and that they can do something there? I mean, they lost in their home building against Pittsburgh. I don't know about coming home, making you feel any different about that series. I mean, the Sixers lost by 32 to Boston in Game 1. They won Game 2 in Boston. I tweeted out last night, look, if you're going to lose, just get the doors blown off you. I don't care what the final score was last night. We talked about it yesterday. One game, the Knicks were going to shoot the lights out. One game, the Sixers are going to shoot the lights out. Was last night the Knicks game where they shot the lights out? Do they have a better game than that in them? And do the Sixers have a worse game than that in them? I know most people will watch that particular game and just say, oh, my God, you got blown out. You're not even close to the Knicks. Same way that you looked at the first game against the Celtics. But is this one different for you? You know, they shot last night 51% from 3. 51%. The Michael Jordan Bulls teams aren't winning a game when the other team shoots 51% from 3. They shot 63% from the floor last night. For God's sakes. And they out-rebound you by 11. It was just a total ass-kicking last night. And good. Let them get that all out. They won by 51 the other night. They won by 39 last night. They are riding high. They are feeling good. Anunoby, 2 of 2 from 3. Towns, 3 of 5. Hart, 1 of 2. Hart didn't make 4 threes, for God's sakes. There's a positive. Bridges, 3 for 5. Brunson, 3 for 6. I mean, off the bench, you had guys. Miles McBride, Deuce had a couple of threes. I mean, everybody who took a 3. Kolek came in. He hit 2 threes. I mean, it was, you get a 3, and you get a 3. They kicked your butt last night, and I was all for it. If I was Nick Nurse at halftime last night, I would have said, guys, tonight's not our night. I'm not even rolling you back out there. I wouldn't even have started them in the third quarter last night. I would have just said, let them absolutely blow us out of the water and make them feel like they've already beat us in this series. Watch what they're doing here. Focus in on this and move on to fight another day. I thought he played the guys too many minutes last night. George, 26, Embiid, 25, Oubre, 27, Maxey, 27, Edgecombe, 28. At what point in the game I was like, hey, get these guys out of there. This game is over. And see if you can find somebody off your bench that can give you a little something. Quentin Grimes last night played 24 minutes. He was the leader off the bench. There's so much in the game. I thought the Sixers played well for about 8 minutes. They were kind of hanging in there. I mean, the NBA did them no favors. They played Saturday night in a Game 7 against Boston. And they're like, hey, guys, come back and play Monday night against the Knicks. So not ideal. I know this is all made for television, the TV networks. They want the best matchups and the great times and all that stuff. But if you're a TV network, do you really want a game that's going to be a 39-point blowout? And if you are looking at two teams and one played Saturday night, you would probably say, hey, you know what? Let's take the Lakers and Oklahoma City. Neither one of those two teams have played in a couple of days. I think Oklahoma City's been sitting around twiddling their thumbs for about 5 days. The Lakers were done like 3 or 4 days ago. Why don't we put them on Monday night and put the Knicks game on Tuesday night, give the Sixers an extra night so they can maybe make it a competitive game? They just had nothing last night. In a game that you're coming off a 51-point closeout win against the Hawks. That was on Thursday, right? Thursday or Friday. The Knicks open up with a 39-point thrashing of the Sixers last night. And you know what? I'm all here for it. Actually, as the game's going on, halftime-ish, I'm on the Flyers game by this point. I watched virtually the entire third period and overtime without flipping back to the Sixers game. And I kept saying, they're not beating them by enough. That's what my takeaway was. They're not beating them by enough. I want you to win by more. Knicks. I wanted you to win by more. Like a badge of courage. Just keep kicking their butt up and down the court, which they were. The Knicks have played almost 6,700 NBA games between the regular season and the playoffs in their history. Right now, the New York Knickerbockers are having their best 4-game stretch by point differential in franchise history. This is an organization that goes back to 1946 and 1947. In the last 4 games, they have won by 135 points. That said, they are the first team in NBA history to win 3 straight games by 25 or more. They are the third team to win consecutive playoff games by 30 or more points. Their starters have not played into the fourth quarter in any of their last 2 games, so they're well rested as well. They are absolutely scorching hot right now. But at what point does scorching hot, you know the whole thing, you score 10 runs on Monday, you get shut out on Tuesday, right? You're an NFL team, you score 43 points one Sunday, the next Sunday you kick a field goal. When are the Knicks going to come down to life, come down to earth, and join the rest of us? Because they're playing at a torrid pace that I don't think they can just keep on matching. Teams that open with a 30-point win, they go on to win the series 88% of the time. They are 35-5 when that happens. So we shall see if they were able to hold on here and beat the Sixers. The Sixers had no answer last night. My buddy texted me at one point, and I was about to say the same thing. The Sixers are defending the Knicks like they were trying to defend the Celtics. And these are 2 different teams. They are 2 different teams, and you can't defend the Knicks the same way that you're going to defend the Celtics. Is this series over? No. Is this series, a mismatch? Not by any stretch. This thing has legs. I think it's going to the full 7. It's a coin flip at the end. They got the first one, and they did it in impressive fashion. If you shoot 51%, you're going to win that game. I don't think you're the Sixers. You look up and say, oh, my God. We really played well and lost. No, they shot 51% from the field from 3 last night. That's insanity. Now, the last time you played the Knicks, one of the storylines was they didn't miss. I mean, Hart had 4 threes in 3 different games. If that happens, you're not beating them again. So if they shoot like they did last night, the Knicks are going to sweep you. Does anybody think out there, is there a Knicks fan out there that thinks they're going to shoot like that? Sal Licata from the Sal Licata Show was on our show yesterday. And he said, I don't trust the Knicks. He picked the Sixers to win in 7. I know a lot of people are picking the Knicks to win this series, and we'll see how it goes. Now, if the Knicks come out again Wednesday night and play like this and shoot the lights out, I know people are going to be hitting the panic button. And you're down 2-0 and the Knicks playing like this, the sand is going through the hourglass on something, either your season or them shooting like this. Because if they keep shooting like that, it doesn't matter how good you play. You're not shooting 51% from 3 multiple games. And if they do, you shake their hand and say, hey, you're better than we are. But in the game last night, there's really no positive takeaways. There really isn't. Other than the fact that you got your starters out of that game not as quickly as I would have liked. If I'm the Sixers, I would have got my guys out of there a little sooner and said, listen, you got us tonight. Congrats. You got us tonight. Embiid had a terrible game last night. 14 points, 3 for 11 from the field. Fewest points in a playoff game for Embiid going back to 2023 against the Nets in that game, Game 3 against Brooklyn. And it's the second worst playoff loss for the Sixers in franchise history. Going back, by the way, you know what else they lost? They lost by 40. You know what game it was? They played the Celtics in 1982. You know what happened in that series? The Sixers won. So they lost by 40 in Game 1 of the 82 Conference Finals. Do you think people hit the panic button? Oh, my God, we lost to the Celtics by 40. They came back and beat the Celtics. So I'm not deterred by what I saw in the game last night. What I am is wondering whether or not, whether or not you have the adjustment in you now to kind of say, all right, this is what the Knicks did really well the first game. They had Embiid dropping so much, and Brunson cooked them. Can't have Brunson at the foul line getting open looks all night long. He was so efficient, 12 of 18. You know, the rest of the guys, now this game's hard to read. Game's over by halftime, and it was. I mean, the clip that we played in the Open today, Tom McGinnis, it was indicative of how this game, like you weren't thinking at halftime, all right, just get into halftime, we're going to get back in this game. No. As the clock is winding down, they take a shot and they get an offensive board and kick it out, and Brunson hits another three. It was just so apropos of the night. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. I give the Knicks a ton of credit for coming out and continuing to be blistering hot. Is it fair for me to question whether or not they can stay that hot? 51% from three? Call me crazy. I don't know that you can do that. Let me go back to the game they played against Atlanta, in which they won by 51. Okay, they won that game by scoring 140 points. They can't keep this pace up. And in that game, they shot 36% from three. That is like normal. That's a normal night. And they scored 140. So last night, scoring 50, hitting 51%. I don't see that happening again. And I think this will be a long series. Wednesday night, you can listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. Flyers. Frustrating. Gut punch. The Flyers, a tough one last night. You go up 2-0 in the first 5 minutes of that game. And you cannot find a way to hold on. And you outplayed them significantly in the overtime period. To not walk out of Raleigh with that win last night is absolutely gut-wrenching. You're up 2-0. It's 2-1. They make it 2-2. Now you get to overtime. And the way you come out in overtime and essentially dominate the period. I mean, now you know how Pittsburgh felt. They dominated you in that overtime, and you walk out a loser if you're Pittsburgh with one goal on a shot from York. And that's how the Flyers have to feel. That game eliminated the Penguins. That game last night might have eliminated the Flyers. Now, it'll be interesting to see how they react. Teams that go up 2-0 in the best of 7, they win 86% of the time. But last night was a game. If you're the Flyers, you're flying home, and you're thinking, man, we outplayed them and still lost. The opportunity that Travis Konechny had. You don't see that opportunity in a career. You never get that opportunity. Someone says, whoops, here you go, one-on-one with the tender. And he misses the net. He don't even hit net. He don't even hit goal. Nothing. Give me a post. Give me something. Give me a blocker. He misses everything. And that's the epitome of the situation right there. You got to bury that moment. That moment can't be too big for you. And it was. And then on the flip side, Taylor Hall, first career playoff overtime goal. One opportunity for Hall. And he snatches it. And they go on to take a 2-0 series lead. I don't know. It was a great overtime. The Flyers played tremendous. They outshot them 15-8 in overtime, but they had looks. I mean, their power play just stinks. My God. You get one shot on the power play in overtime. And the whole thing, I'm listening to Ferraro. He's talking about how the goaltenders, Sebastian Giguere had told him about how the goaltenders have the advantage in the overtime because, guys are tired, the ice isn't as good, all that stuff. And you're like, man, this is setting up perfect. And you got that one shot on the power play. That's it. You got one shot. So frustrating. I left significantly more frustrated. Now, I give the Flyers credit. They fought hard, and they're in over their heads in this series probably by the Hurricane. They're just a better team. But you had a shot right there. You had your chance. So I leave more frustrated by the Flyers' loss last night than I do the Sixers' loss. The Sixers' loss, I'm like, whatever. You got blown out. Happens. You live to fight another day. The Flyers felt like, in the great words of Jim Morrison in The Doors, this is the end. Because I don't know that they rebound from that one. I just don't. So there's where we are. And then the Phillies won last night. Bryce Harper with a dinger. They win 1-0. Aaron Nola pitched well. We'll get into that Phillies fastball a little bit later on today. Frank Klose has the mailbag. We got early Nuggets. Kevin Durso tonight at 5:30. So that's my breakdown. I hit the net, I hope. I at least hope I hit the net with my expository.
Listen, you didn't say anything that was necessarily wrong. I just think that there does need to be a little more criticism of the Sixers than you're giving, and just the fact that part of the reason why the Knicks shot so well is because, as Joel Embiid pointed out after the game, their defense had no cohesion at all last night. They looked like, I get it. They were tired. And
listen, I agree. I'm not saying they're absolved of criticism. You can criticize them up, down, 10 ways to Sunday. Yeah, absolutely.
Because the game was so close in the first quarter.
Yeah, it was about 8 minutes.
It was a game in the first quarter. They still had it. Paul George actually played well in the first quarter. And beat a Maxey who hit the broadside of a barn.
Maxey, I'm glad you brought Maxey up. I didn't give him he shot one shot in the first quarter.
It was bad.
Yeah, Maxey just seemed like
he looked like he was lost.
Yeah, overwhelmed. And you say tired. To me, tired is not an excuse.
Everyone's tired.
This is all these guys do. They play basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, to say I played on Saturday and now I'm just too tired to play again on Monday.
Yeah, that's not
to
tired.
me, that is not an excuse, but I do understand it's a physical game that's up and down.
They didn't travel far either.
No, but they were at Boston, then they're in Philly, whatever. But still
same time zone.
I definitely look at the Sixers and say they get plenty of criticism for this. So my point though is criticize them, give them a minus, give them a 0 out of 10 effort, give them a 0, and say that there was an awful effort, all that stuff. And to me, you pack it in a box, you put it in the corner, and you move on from it.
Right, but now it's about what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. So maybe I didn't sound like I'm giving them enough grief. They deserve all the grief. They didn't come to play. It was almost as if they said, we're not coming to play. Just bury us. And I'm saying, if I'm the Sixers, I almost would have said, if that's the action I'm getting, like sometimes if you're coaching and you say, listen, I'm going to make you sit here and watch them blow our doors off. I want you to watch this team just kick our ass. That's what I wish Nurse would have done. Make the starters sit there the whole second half and watch the second unit just get barbecue chicken.
Right, just take it in.
Yeah, and say, look, we had this conversation last week about disciplining. Rogers rules. You are going to watch your teammates suffer the punishment. You have forced them into this punishment. And I'm going to make you watch them guys have to go out there and play your battle because you didn't show up for this game. And that's what you're going to do. You don't get to play in the third quarter. No, you don't get that opportunity to go out there and play. You're going to watch and let your teammates go out there who practice their ass off. Go out there and let them play, and you guys are going to sit here the entire second half. You know why? Because you didn't show up at all in the first half. And you knew they weren't getting back into that game in the third quarter.
No, they weren't. And I think in that case, I do agree with you that would have been the best thing because you're not punishing the other guys in terms of, like corporal punishment. They're still getting playing time in a playoff game. Like these guys were probably Justin Edwards, he ain't going to be upset that he get to play 30 minutes in the playoff game.
But what it would have possibly done is given you an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? This guy came to play.
Right.
This guy, because the Sixers, one thing they need to find, they got to find somebody else other than Grimes. They got to get someone that can give them some minutes. So you know what? Go out and play your ass off in the second half. And just like the Celtics did the other night in Game 6, when the Sixers were basically dominating that game, and the Sixers just ran the Celtics just ran their second unit out there, and they actually kind of got back. They cut the lead to 8 late.
You forced the Sixers to keep their starters in Game 6 because their bench was so willing to play,
and because of that, Missoula ended up making some lineup changes for Game 7.
Correct.
Now it didn't work, but if I said, "Hey, listen, the second half." I'm going with Grimes. I'm going with Jabari. I'm going with Justin Edwards, Dominic Barlow, and Bona.
Or Bona, okay.
I said Walker.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody go out there and make an impression. Somebody go out there. We're getting our ass kicked. Make this game close. Go out there and put a run on. Put a little run together and see if we can get something going here. Instead, you went back with the starters who had no interest in being there last night.
Yeah, and it was just, I think that's what frustrated me more about anything, and that was it just felt like, the Flyers' loss was gut-wrenching, and they had multiple opportunities to win the game. But I was so encouraged by the way they played for the first 3 periods of the game that it was almost like, if you're going to lose, I at least want to see that you gave the effort.
I'm not questioning the Flyers' effort at all. I thought they outplayed Carolina. My point was more that it's gut-wrenching that they lost with the effort that they gave.
See, I think the loss for the Flyers last night was actually very important. Because
maybe in the big picture of the franchise's growth, if I'm looking at on the macro level of just the micro level of just this series,
just that game it stinks
of this series, big picture franchise growth, that game, that loss, maybe you take something from. But if I want to win this series, I gotta have that game. I gotta have that game.
And even if you come back home and win the 2 games at home, you've already shown that you can't win in Carolina, and Carolina's got that in their back pocket, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Carolina, by the way, they had not trailed at all in the entire playoffs. You had them down last night for 40-plus minutes.
By the way, Carolina had not trailed in a month between regular season and postseason. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was a gut-wrenching loss. I'm not questioning the Flyers and saying that they, didn't show effort or they didn't fight. They did all that stuff and still came up short last night. That's the tough takeaway on that one. The Sixers, I think, just decided tonight's not our night. Now, I'm not absolving them of that mindset, but the end result was you got your ass kicked.
Right.
And I hope they learn from that. All right, text board is open on the White Horse RV text board, 609-403-0973. The White Horse RV text board in Williamstown and Galloway. Your RV adventure starts here. We'll read off your text messages, 609-403-0973. This hour of the Sports Bash, we started off, is brought to you by the law offices of Craig A. Altman.
Listen, you do not want to go into an injury case the way the Sixers went into that game at Madison Square Garden last night. Because if you get into a car accident, a serious workplace injury, a slip and fall, that injury case, the other side, they're going to be ready. Those insurance companies, they have a game plan. Delay, deny, pay as little as possible. So you got to make sure whoever's on your side does not look like Tyrese Maxey last night at Madison Square Garden. That's why you need to call the law offices of Craig A. Altman. Tough lawyers for the tough cases. 856-327-8899. Offices on Delsey Drive in Vineland. It's 856-327-8899. Or visit them online at CraigAltmanLaw.com.
All right, coming up, we got your text messages, Frank Klose's Phillies mailbag, Knicks Nuggets, the unsportsmanlike moment of the day, football at 4, and more right here on the Sports Bash. All right, 2:32. A lot of text messages to open up the show. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Your takeaways from the two losses last night. Do you take anything from the Sixers game? Do you look at the Flyers and say, hey, they got a shot in this series. They fought hard, and they can find a way to win games 3 and 4 and tie this thing up going back to Raleigh? 609-403-0973. Come on, Mike. The series is definitely not over, but you're completely poo-pooing the total ass-kicking the Knicks gave the Sixers. You have to give them some credit. Oh, I'm giving the Knicks credit. They shot 51% from 3, but guess what? I don't know how much more credit I can give you than saying nobody's winning that game if you're going to shoot 51%. The Knicks deserve credit for that, no doubt about it, but I'm not discouraged by a team hitting 51%. I shake their hand. I said I shake their hand. You know, sometimes you tip your cap. You say, look, you were just better than me today. And the Knicks were just better than the Sixers were yesterday. They beat them upside down and inside out. They told all the party people what they all about. They took it back to the old school. So I'm not poo-pooing the Knicks. They played awesome. 609-403-0973 on the White Horse RV text board. Every experience is a learning experience for the Flyers, still super young. 85% of the people didn't expect them to make the playoffs. Such a tough way to lose, but I still think they steal a few games. I hope so. And the thing you talk about, how young this Flyers team is, I think that is something that is lost in the sauce. And there's two things about this. I was thinking about this last night. I'm glad that text message brought this up. Is this the beginning of the Flyers becoming the next young team that's constantly battling? You know, the Hurricanes have been this team that scored all these points and have never made it to a Stanley Cup final. Barkey, 21. Luchenko, 19. Zegras, 25. Bump, 22. Obviously, you've got Martone, 19. Michkov, 21. Forrester, 24. Bunk, 21. Drysdale, 24. I mean, you can go on and on about how young some of the players on this team are. Cam York, 25. And I guess the question is this the beginning of this group starting their ascent, and that or is it going to be like, hey, whatever happened to that Flyers team? They had all these young guys on it, and they made a fun run a couple of years ago. Like, is this team filled with, I don't want to say forever Flyers, but like, is this the group that we can buy into to say, yeah, they played hard, they might have lost this series, but look at all the young guys they got?
I think it is, because you're going to have an offseason coming up where you're going to have a lot of salary cap space to work with. This is the first offseason that Danny Briere and Keith Jones actually can add to this roster in a legitimate way. And so that combined with these pieces, I'll call them, starting point pieces, right? They're guys that, if you're building a roster out, you need guys like the Zegrases. You need guys like the Jamie Drysdales. You need these guys who are young enough to be a part of your future, but you also are building the roster with the understanding that you need more than those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I just was wondering, because as I'm watching the game last night, he keeps saying, Mike Monaco was the play-by-player last night.
Yeah.
He keeps bringing up, as they're passing around and taking, shots in the overtime period, and you're hearing names like Bump and Barkey, you're thinking, man, these guys are really, Bump's 22, Barkey's 21. Like, you're thinking, man, this is pretty cool that these guys are playing in a game of this magnitude.
Don't forget about Porter Martone, too.
Martone, yeah. I mean, all these guys. And you're just kind of – but then I thought to myself, but is this going to be the team that you're like, when they're 24 and 25, you're still waiting for that championship or Stanley Cup Finals appearance? I don't know what to make of the talent they have on this team. What is the high-end ceiling of this talent? Barkey, Bump, Those guys are really young. Then you've got Forrester, 22. You got Ziegler, so they got to figure out what they're going to, if they're going to bring him back.
They'll bring him back.
You would think so, but
people forget he's also an East Coast guy. So there's a part of him that was very happy to come to Philadelphia because, for those who don't know the whole story, Ziegler had a bad experience with the Ducks.
Yeah, he wanted to come back to the East Coast, but that doesn't mean Philadelphia is not the only team that resides in the East Coast.
No, but I mean, he's had a good experience with Philadelphia. He's
money talks, dude. In the end,
does.
you could say I love it here, but if somebody else says they want to pay you, you have to make that decision. So that's something that we certainly. It's not a guarantee. Now, I'm bringing it up because it's not a guarantee. He might have this playoff run, and someone might say, we want that guy now. And if they reside on the East Coast, the Flyers might say, we can't afford to pay you what this team is going to pay.
Sure, there is a possibility of that. I don't foresee a scenario as of May 5th that they're going to let the team as currently constructed, fall apart because of that.
We've got Paul in Millville says, I have to give the Sixers a pass last night. A lot of emotion in Game 6 and 7 to finally exercise the demons against the Celtics. They looked tired. They just couldn't hit the ocean with the beach ball. They have to take Game 2, though, just like they did in Boston, or this series is going to be over. You need to have the momentum going to Philly. So let's start there because he does have a Flyers point as well. Do I give the Sixers a pass? I don't want to say a pass, but I'm understanding of you're not sweeping the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a great path for you to start on.
Correct.
To say I have to win 4 games, to say one of my 4 is going to be Game 1 after what Paul from Mill. So I'm not giving you a pass, but I'm understanding. I don't know if that's a pass. Is understanding a pass?
I don't think it's a pass, but I do think that there is an element of you have always taken the position where you believe that, that there is no real, you said multiple times, that there's no real carryover from one game to the next in these playoff series. So for you, you don't look at this, you, Mike Gill, as, hey, the Sixers are going to lose a series just because they got blown out in this game.
No, I never think that way. In fact,
so I think that's why it's not a pass, because your perspective is that.
I have always been, I actually like when I get blown out. I think you need that sometimes. You need the ass kicking. You need the humbling sometimes. And you say, all right, we're not a 39 point less than that team there. You need that. And then conversely, you need the other team to think they're 39 points better than you. Now, you would think professional athletes are smart enough to understand that you're not 39 points better. But sometimes you're cocky enough to think that you are.
You do, yes.
Paul in Millville, also Flyers point, says the Flyers' magic is dead. I honestly don't think they're as good as everyone else does. Good story, but lucked into the playoffs because the teams in front of them didn't do their part. Then they got the best round 1 matchup. I wouldn't be surprised to see this Flyers backslide next year. So Paul in Millville a little down on the Flyers. I got to be honest. As much as I've seen a lot of excitement about the Flyers, I've seen a lot of criticism of Tocchet and the way, as if he's almost holding this team back, as if there's more here.
Yeah, I don't agree with that perspective at all. I think Tocchet has done more with less than people realize. Yes, they got a very good matchup in the first round, in terms of the style of play. But I think that this has been a very important playoff run. You mentioned the Alec Bumps, the Denver Barkeys. You're getting these guys invaluable experience.
You are. I'm just not, and listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've watched Alex Bump and Alex Barkey enough to make a big picture, but I don't know who they are. I don't know. Are they guys that are frontline players, or are they just the same group of Flyers that you had where you had a bunch of good players but not great players? For years, one of their problems was, well, I've got Giroux and I've got, Lawton, and these guys are all good players, but none of them are players that you're like, now that guy's different. Do the Flyers have that guy? We thought it was Michkov. Now, I thought Michkov had a couple opportunities. He was more aggressive last night.
He was way more aggressive
last
night.
I don't know that Barkey and Bump are two guys where you're like, wow, we found something with these guys. Or are they just going to be your next Konechny, your next Lawton, your next, all the guys that you've
And
had
by the way,
over the
you
years.
need those guys
Yeah, you
to build
do.
out a roster. It's just what you're talking about
Yeah,
is...
but the problem the Flyers have had is they weren't there to build out the roster. They were your best players.
Right. The difference is that Carolina, just to use them as an example, has a roster full of people like Alex Bump and Denver Barkey, but they still have Sebastian Aho as their number one guy. So I think that's where the differentiator is. You need Bump and Barkey part of your future, but if you're depending on Bump and Barkey to save your season, that's where you lose.
No, I'm not saying save the season. I'm wondering if they are just another in the long line of the Flyers have the 18 to 20 goal
Good
scorer,
guys.
but not the 30 to 40 goal scorer.
I think there's only two guys, and again, it might be more, but I think as of right now, there's only two guys on this roster whose legitimate potential is what you're talking about. I think the rest of the roster is a bunch of good, not great players.
And that's where I think Paul and Millville is wondering, hey, I'm watching a bunch of guys who are young and they're energetic and they're fighting like hell right now, but what is their overall big picture ceiling? Okay, am I going to get another group of guys like I've had over the years? For years when they had like the Wayne Simmonses of the world and all that group of guys that were just like good players, but they weren't great players.
I think the difference is that this team is being built with the understanding that they're going to add other pieces. They're going to make a trade or add guys in free agency who can maybe be that guy. Because at the end of the day, let's be realistic. When Briere and Keith Jones came into this organization, the drafting wasn't really that great.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Got a lot more to go, including more of your text messages. Got a lot of them here. 609-403-0973. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, I got at least 10 more texts that have just popped in that last segment there. So I'll do my best to try to hit on as many as I can. 3 o'clock, Frank has the Phillies mailbag. Phillies won last night. Aaron Nola. Wow, is the Nola coaster back into form? 609-403-0973. The Nuggets, the unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Adam Schefter commenting on A.J. Brown. Does he have new news? That is our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Listen for that coming up later on in the show. I am Mike Gill, and this is the Sports Bash. 250 Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN. Couple text messages I want to hit on here. Guys, will Owen Tippett be back for Game 3? Good question. You thought that he would have been a big difference maker last night.
Yeah, I think that he could have been a huge difference, especially on that power play at overtime.
His speed definitely would have been a big difference maker potentially last night. Although there are some reports that, that Noah Cates could be out for a little while. And to me, I think Noah Cates has been a huge. Now, Noah Cates is one of those guys that I'm talking about from like the past teams.
He is.
That I like him in that role.
He's a big glue guy.
I like him. I'm a big fan of what Noah Cates brings.
I guess the only good news is that the Flyers have a couple extra days off before the next game, so maybe by the time we get to Thursday, Tippett and Cates will be okay.
Chris in Delaware. Flyers played a great game and lost. Carolina's just a better team. I didn't expect the Flyers to win more than a game in the series. I didn't either, and I thought last night was the gut punch that could get them swept, by the way. I mean, you're right there. You outplay the better team, and you still lose. Those are the kind of games you're like, what more do we need to do? He goes on about the Sixers. He said, Sixers, I think, didn't care, and the series starts in Game 2. I expect a better game plan, like the guys on Get Up talked about this morning. I doubt New York will shoot that good again, and Maxey and B will play better. That's where I'm at, Chris. I just look at the Knicks, and I shake their hand and say, you played really well, New York. We didn't come to play, and you exploited that. In other words, like, we didn't come to play, and you didn't let us hang around. You buried us. So congratulations. You move on. And like in 1982 when the Celtics won Game 1 by 40, you just hope you take that 40-point dusting and move on from it. 609-403-0973. What bothers me about the Sixers in the middle of a historic beatdown when the camera pans the Sixers bench, Maxey and Embiid are giggling like two schoolgirls. So why should I get upset? I think we read too much into those kind of things sometimes. I know that bothers the fan who sits and looks about it. We have no idea what they were talking about. But you're saying, you shouldn't be talking about anything. You should be sitting there and taking your ass whipping. I get it. I'm okay with you being angry by that, right?
I don't mind you being angry about it. I would just like to make sure that you have that energy in other situations as well. I think sometimes there is a very aggressive, intense dislike of certain players, like, for example, Joel Embiid, and people will find almost anything.
People like Maxey.
That's true.
So the fact that Maxey is getting called out for the same situation,
that's true.
That is, that adds to it.
It amplifies it. Is that right?
Yes, and listen, the players today are different than the players of yesteryear.
Correct.
And that's hard for us to sometimes come to terms with. Do I want to see my guy having a laugh? No, I don't. I'm with the text message guy, but I'm also not going to overreact to it. Mike, Sixers were gassed from the start. Knicks were 2 steps faster, quick, very crisp, and rested. It's disappointing with the quick turnaround. LeBron and the Lakers get 3 days rest, played Friday, played Game 1 tonight. I don't think the NBA did the Sixers any favors, but you're right. They weren't gassed from the start. They hung in there early.
Right. The beginning of the game, they were fine, but what happened was they got to the second quarter, and the Knicks felt like they found like turbo boost or something.
609-403-0973. Phil goes on to say, brutal loss for the Flyers. Look forward to them coming out physical Game 3. At the very least, this series is a great experience for a young team. Surprise, surprise, they may have finally found a goalie. Yeah, Vladar's been awesome. He's been a great find, and an unexpected find, by the way.
Nobody expected this from Vladar.
Real quick, Mike Brunson was the best player last night, just like he was in the 24 series. He scored 40 points in Game 4, 5, and 6. He made every clutch shot. Yeah, Brunson was the best player, and he exploited everything the Sixers said. Hey, we're going to let you try to beat us this way, and he did. We're going to let you shoot from the foul line every time. We'll drop Joel back, and he did. All right, coming up on the other side, it is Frank Klose's Phillies mailbag. The Phillies, we forgot about them because the Sixers and Flyers have been on every single night, so we haven't been watching the Phillies. The Phillies have the whole night to themselves tonight. We'll check in on the mailbag coming up next. All right, 3 o'clock hour, Sports Bash this hour brought to you by Broadleys Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. It's a trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, and installation for generation. Call 609-390-3907. Frank Klose's Phillies mailbag. Phillies lineup just dropped. They did activate Johan Duran, so he is back tonight. So that's good news there. Phillies lineup, kind of normal. It's Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Garcia, Marsh, Realmuto, Stott, Bohm, and Crawford. Christopher Sanchez goes for the Phillies tonight. And, of course, they have the night to themselves tonight for the first time since Saturday afternoon. Actually, they had the day to themselves and the night to themselves. Let's bring in Frank Klose from 97.3 ESPN.com, who joins us now for today's Phillies mailbag. And, of course, Frank, let's first talk a little bit about Aaron Nola last night. We saw Aaron Nola, kind of vintage Nola last night. What did you take away from that? Is there a big picture takeaway from the game last night? Because first time Nola went 6, gave up nothing, no walks in the game. I talked about yesterday, one of the big problems with Nola, I think this year and last year, has been the lack of command and control that has led to a lot of walks.
Yeah, that's very fair to say. I think he was particularly effective at painting around the strike zone. You know, you get those challenges now, but if you kind of live around the edges of the strike zone, you can probably get them to burn their challenges pretty quickly and then play with it from there. So if I'm Aaron Nola, I try to do more of that because it seemed to work really, really, really well. So, yeah, the having no walks, absolutely huge. You've seen what the free passes do to Nola. He struggled considerably with runners on base in his earlier starts. So obviously not putting on some free passes makes the outcome a lot better. So it was really nice to see that him kind of come back and put a performance together like that. I think we saw what happens when the game kind of gets away from him, and then that throws off the bullpen too. So really good to see. So a normal bullpen as well after he goes 6.
Let's look at the mailbag question number 1. I like Craig's question here. I think a lot of people want to know. Phillies are 6-1 with Don Mattingly. What is different about the Don Mattingly Phillies? Why are they playing so much better all of a sudden? Or are they even playing better?
I think they are. But there's a few things I think that are at play here. And I think the first thing is you have to acknowledge that the competition is a lot lighter right now. I mean, the Phillies went through that stretch where it was Braves, Cubs, and I forget what order that was in already. But yeah, that's a significant chunk of the schedule against the 2 best teams in the National League. If you look at their numbers, the Braves are playing at a 694 clip right now of the season, and the Chicago Cubs are at 657. The only team kind of in that conversation are the Yankees right now in the American League. So the Phillies had very steep competition. That's not to say that they shouldn't have played better during those games. In fact, they let some games that were still kind of winnable get away, in my opinion. But that makes them way better. Second, too, I think we got to talk about the return of Zach Wheeler, right? We had that thoracic outlet syndrome surgery. Came back, he kind of didn't know what to expect, and I think he's exceeded expectations of what you thought that he would give after he came back from that surgery. And then you couple that, too, with the Phillies being able to finally move on from Taijuan Walker, who was arguably having the worst year of his 4 years in the Phillies uniform. So it's kind of addition by subtraction, and it's addition by addition. I mean, those 2 moves make the Phillies that much better. And you know what? The fact that Zach Wheeler's in the rotation, the bullpen gets better, right? Because he's going to go deeper in the games than Walker was. And again, just kind of the sense of normalcy that it brings back with it. And speaking of atmosphere, I think the firing just created a little bit of a sense of urgency too, that they felt bad that Rob Thompson lost his job over it. But I think everybody agrees they're playing below what they should have been. Their expected output was high. They won 96 games last year, right? And as we said many times, they've pretty much run back the whole team. So with those players back, you know they're better than that. But they had that little psychological reset that the Phillies could sort of just look in the mirror and say, okay, we're not playing well enough, and kind of shake them up enough to get them back. It's almost like that's what's become the one thing you can do now, right? You can't fire the players, you can fire the manager, you can make a statement that way, you can change the clubhouse dynamic that way. So there is something to be said for that. But in terms of mechanics or lineups, as you just said, talking about the Phillies lineup, it's pretty much what we've expected much of the year. Not a lot changed there, but really those three things I think made all the difference.
And frankly, I don't know that the lineup is actually even performing all that much better. Their pitching's been better. The lineup, they scored one run last night. It was a home run. That's it. They scored no runs on Saturday. I don't know if the lineup has come around yet. I want to get your take, though, on what Bryce Harper said last night. I thought this was really bizarre, to be honest with you. He said, I think we were all waiting for that shoe to drop or that ball to drop, waiting for something to happen. If Topper was going to get fired or he wasn't. It was just kind of like, we need to get over this hump and get through this. I mean, what kind of message is he trying to portray there by saying we were just kind of waiting for Topper to get fired or not get fired?
Yeah, well, I don't like that attitude from him. I mean, he's supposed to be the leader, right? He's the one who should be stepping up and saying, hey, regardless of what rumors you have, we need to play better. That would be what I would expect from Bryce Harper, but I think that is kind of true that, they reached a point where the bottom was dropping out and they were thinking something major like that was going to happen. But you're not supposed to say that. I think you're just supposed to go out on the field, be a leader there, be a leader in the clubhouse when you're Bryce Harper, and make sure that the team plays better. So I'm not a big fan of that particular statement, and I actually missed that statement in real time because there were a couple other things going on at the same time as the Phillies game ended.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be bizarre that he would actually say something like that, but it was almost just like we were waiting to see if he was going to get fired or if he wasn't. Like, they weren't kind of keeping you up to date behind, like, where they say, we might fire him, everybody. Like, you would think you would say, we're not playing well. We might get this guy fired. Like, we got to turn it around. So his comments are almost like we're waiting on him to get fired here.
Well, I would say in Bryce's defense, I thought it was a little bizarre that Dave Dombrowski sent his little henchmen around into the dugout the weekend before to explore what was going on. So, I mean, I think that sends a strange message to the players. I would not have made it so blatant that they were around evaluating, and they were openly talking about it too. It was widely reported.
Yeah. Oh, that was down in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get the next question in the mailbag here for Frank. And this question comes from, where did it go? There we go. Pat wants to know, why don't the Phillies just move on from Rafael Marchand already? This is an interesting question because the backup catcher is like the backup quarterback in this town, right?
I feel like we get backup catcher questions all the time, Mike, for all the years I've been doing this. So was Andrew Knapp for a long time?
Because the backup catcher has always never been given an opportunity to play, and then when he does play, he generally isn't very good because he doesn't get a lot of opportunities.
Right, and it's not like the Andrew Knapp days where they ended up having pinch hitting against the closer every night. Well, but here's the thing: this is a little tough one for the Phillies because Marchand has clearly struggled behind the plate. And so, but in terms of, at the plate as a batter, but behind the plate, he's very, very good. In fact, the Phillies, rather than send one of the catchers out, when JT Realmuto was activated, they opted to keep Stubbs and Marchand around. And, I think that if the Phillies put Marchand on waivers because they were looking to remove him from the active roster, I think he would most certainly be claimed. And the Phillies can't afford right now to give up some of their catching depth, especially with JT Realmuto a little bit banged up. But you know what? If you look at the numbers here, if you look since he entered the league in 2010, go to Baseball Savant. They do a really good job with some of the defensive metrics. And if you look at pop time, every year he's been in the major leagues, he has been in top 10, along with the starters. In fact, one year, 2021, he and Realmuto were 1 and 2. Realmuto first, Marchand second on that leaderboard. But every year he's been in the top 10. Right now in 2008, he's in the top 8. So you got something there behind the plate. And from my perspective, the backup catcher hitting is usually the thing you worry about the least on your roster, right? When the starting catcher doesn't play, you want somebody who could just call a good game and play some good defense. But here's where the rules are sort of changing a little bit. It's that JT Realmuto is 35 years old. He's not going to be able to play like he has in recent years, right? We already saw with this most recent injury, this is kind of the thing that when he was younger might not have happened, or it might have been a minor thing and he's back in the lineup, right? The Phillies have an older catcher. They're going to need to have another catcher that's prepared to play for more. And I don't know who that is right now. Maybe someday they can make a roster move and get somebody with some availability. And I think that you need to just go for the defense when he doesn't play right now. If you can find a better solution, it's not in the organization. But yes, Rafael Marchand is clearly a solid behind the plate option for the Phillies.
Yeah, according to defensive runs saved, Rafael Marchand is the best defensive player on the Phillies. For whatever that's worth, it kind of backs up your point is he does have good pop time. He throws guys out. He does a good job at doing all that stuff. He just hasn't hit all that much, which the backup catcher generally now, I had said before, he doesn't get enough playing time to hit regularly, but he had played pretty consistently while Real Muto was out and did not hit. Now, I don't know that that's enough of a sample size to judge him on regardless. He shouldn't be your everyday catcher. That's pretty apparent.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's telling that Garrett Stubbs got the most recent start behind the plate when
So what happens when because they're going to have to make a move here. You had a day where you started Garrett Stubbs, Adolis Garcia, and Felix Reyes in the outfield. So the Dylan Moore situation, they finally got rid of him. I would imagine they're looking to strengthen their bench. Does Stubbs stay and Marchand goes, or what happens?
I mean, I think with as little as Dylan Moore played, you can carry all three for now, and I think you kind of have to right now. I mean, you're gonna risk losing one of those catchers on waivers if you waive them, and JT Realmuto is just off that injury, right? He already had a day off yesterday, not that far removed from his IL stint. So you need to be careful right now, in my opinion. So I think you need to keep all three of them there. So I think, though, the rest of the roster construction we could take a look at, which I think leads really nicely to the next question.
Bill wants to know, is there anything the Phillies can do about the offense, and why is Felix Reyes still here? And I want to kind of talk a little bit more about what you just said about the two catchers. But the Reyes thing, that's something we talked about at Ventnor Social last week as well. I mean, he's the right-handed bat in the platoon, and he's 24 years old, which means he's not getting to play every single day, not conducive to being able to be consistent, get consistent at bats.
That's very, very fair to say. And you know what? It was great. He hit a home run off Chris Sale in his first major league at bat. That's quite the memory to have for the season and for the young guy. But yes, he's got to go back to AAA. He's got to do two things. One, he needs to learn left field because the Phillies are clearly a little hesitant to put him there. And he's also need to have those regular bats that you just said. Now, here's what I think is fair to say also. Brandon Marsh is your starter. He needs to be in left field every day. I think we've gotten to the point where Brandon Marsh has demonstrated that he should start. And in my opinion, that has to be in left field, period. He's not as strong a center fielder. So then the question becomes, well, then what can you do? Because we don't want to see, like you saw Saturday, and have Adolis Garcia in center field with Stubbs in left. That might have been the worst defensive outfield since it featured Rhys Hoskins and Odubel Herrera, right? So what can the Phillies do? I think that they need to call up someone named Stuart Baroa. And the Phillies just acquired him about a month ago in a trade with the Brewers. He's on the 40-man roster. And down at AAA, he has been primarily playing center field. And he's a switch hitter, batting .269, but his OPS is .825. So he's got 3 home runs, 12 RBI, has stolen 6 bases. He seems like a very nice player to have on your roster. So what I would do, I would send Reyes down, work on his left field. I guess he and Kemp have to share left field, or they figure out a way to make sure that they prioritize that. But I would call up Baroa, have him be sort of your backup outfielder, let Brandon Marsh start, and then those at-bats that Baroa gets probably would happen in center field when Crawford gets a day off against a lefty. I think that's the best option right now. I think Reyes could come up and contribute in a meaningful way later on in the season, but I think it's time to make that move really soon.
Yeah, so the Reyes thing is obviously he's just not playing enough, and quite frankly, is probably up here too soon, right? And he had the home run, so I think that kind of gave him a little bit extra. You hit him in the 4-hole, which really didn't do him any favors. So now you've got a guy who, am I the 4-hole hitter? Am I the 9-hole hitter? I'm playing left field. Now I'm in right field. What are they doing with this poor kid? Get him out of here. Let him go hit. They got to figure this out. 1, 2, you got the 3-catcher situation. None of them can hit. Stubbs is not a guy you're going to call on to hit in a pinch-hitting situation, nor is Marchand. So I understand, okay, fine, I got 3 catchers. I need a guy that can hit off the bench. So I got 2 bats now that can't hit, plus Reyes, who can't hit. I got 3 bats on the bench that can't hit a lick. This is a completely flawed building of this roster still.
It is. And again, if the Phillies can find that backstop, I think that's going to have to come in like a form of a trade, I think, because they haven't been able to develop one themselves. I mean, Marchand would have been the one that they developed into doing so, but if his bat's not working, then you might need to find.
But let's be honest here. Most times the backup catcher you're not counting on him to hit or be a pinch hitter. If you have an extra catcher, generally that might be because that guy can hit, right? I mean, if you had a third catcher, it's because, hey, we can use him as a pinch hitter and still have a backup catcher because teams don't like to use the backup catcher to hit in case the guy gets hurt. But if I have 2 catchers, you would hope one of them can actually hit.
Well, I think this isn't so much about that as it is about JT Realmuto and making sure that he's fully healthy. If Realmuto is fully healthy, then I think they can make a decision here. But right now, I think they need the extra guy around.
All right, so that being said, you can't keep Reyes here, right?
I think no. I think you got to go to Baroa.
Okay, and Baroa's not a guy that can hit either, though.
Well, and he's hitting at AAA. I mean, I know that's not always the best reference.
By the way,
because
so is Reyes.
right. But you don't know how they're going to handle being a bench player in the major leagues.
Yeah.
So
and Otto Kemp today, by the way, he had 7 RBI, he had a 3-run homer, a grand slam. I mean, he got off to a slow start. The problem is, okay, can I bring Kemp back? But he's right back in the same role that he was in. You need to get a veteran player who knows how to be the platoon player. You get a guy who is understanding of that role.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you there. And you know, all these right-handed bats the Phillies were tied to in the past that have gotten released in the last couple of weeks. Well, I think I saw your fave just signed with the Chicago White Sox after being released by the Yankees. I'm drawing. They're all coming. They're all running together in my head. Tommy Pham was the one, and number 15 was
Grichuk.
Grichuk. I don't know why I couldn't think of Grichuk's name, but yeah, he just got signed by the White Sox. So they could grab somebody like that because they seem to be aplenty on waivers right now. But I think their viewpoint is that's not a lot better than what we have on the roster at the moment. So I think that says more about some of those players having their career.
Yeah,
Rob Refsnyder was.
Grichuk makes sense, though. I know he has it, but he's a guy that hits against left-handed pitching. That's what he knows what to do, and he knows that's his role. Rob Refsnyder was a guy this offseason. He goes, all he does is hit lefties. He doesn't expect to play against righties. The Phillies need to get a veteran player who knows he's a platoon player, not a 24-year-old kid.
Yeah, in fact, I would call the White Sox and try to get Austin Hayes off their hands. I know he didn't have a good time in Philly.
I have a guy. There was a free agent this offseason. His name was Austin Hayes, who, by the way, you traded for and said you tried to trade for him in the past and went on to say how good you thought he was and that he didn't really get a fair chance. Then he went and signed with the Reds last year and hit left-handed pitching.
Yeah, you know what? I think the White Sox signed him to flip him, so at some point he could be an option that you get in a trade. But yeah, I'm with you. I would have been in favor of that.
If they go back down the road and trade for the same guy that they could have had already, I mean, that would look terrible.
Well, you know what? If he wins, I don't care how stupid it looks. To be honest with you, that I think that's a fair thing to say, right?
Yeah, and you know, we were talking about this with Oscar during Phillies Fastball. He brought up Refsnyder, and he had another right-handed bat that he thought, you know, they could have made a play for in the offseason. But that's what this team really needs to do. You're not finding a right-handed everyday player. Those, I think, dreams are over with. I think you got to be committed to say, if you want to get an Austin Hayes, just don't tell us he's an everyday player. Hey, he's the guy that's going to play with Brandon Marsh in left field. That's the player that they need.
Yeah, but you know what, though, Mike? I think now they're going to move into Brandon Marsh's starting in left field mode. So I think how he does in that role will dictate whether or not they get a right-handed bat.
They might give him – how long do they give him to face lefties before they decide, you know what, we gave you the chance and we've already seen that that's not a good idea?
He's having a good season. I think that it's already May, so I mean into June. I think it's fair to say
he's having a good season, but against righties,
right? So I think that's why they're willing to see if he can if he can do.
I don't have a problem giving the guy the opportunity. I think he has a pretty big sample size to suggest it's not going to work. If you want to try again, okay, but he has over 500 at bats against lefties in which he struck out almost half the time. So
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, this year, his OPS against lefties is 432, just a 182 batting average. While facing righties, 341 with a 919 OPS.
Yeah.
So all his offense is coming against righties. So I mean, I think for right now, while you don't have that right-handed bat, give him a try. But if
By
the
the way,
results are as we expect,
498 career plate appearances against lefties. He is hitting 211, 277 on base, a 297 slug, and a 574 OPS. He has struck out 190 times in 498 plate appearances against left-handed pitching. I mean, that's almost a full season worth. He's faced lefties almost 500 times, and it's not been good. So if everybody's like, well, why don't they just play him every day instead of trying to find this right-handed bat? Because the results have not been good. That's why.
yeah, I mean, he's actually playing below that career number this year against lefties. But you know what? I guess the argument to give it a shot is, if they face a lefty starter, the bullpen's going to come at some point, and most bullpens are not replete with solid left-handed relievers.
Now, did you see Ken Rosenthal was saying that Rob Thompson has to be watching this and has to be a little annoyed?
You know what? I think Rob Thompson's been around the game enough to know that this is the kind of thing that happens this day.
I can't see him being that kind of guy. He was just saying that, he's got to be watching what's happening here and being like, oh, now you guys decide to kind of give a crap.
Well, listen, I believe Rob Thompson when he said that he's going to be rooting for this team. I think he's still rooting for this team.
Yep. All right, Frank's Phillies mailbag every Tuesday right here on the Sports Bash. Make sure you get your questions at Frank Klose. Frank Klose with a K, Klose. Frank Klose, Phillies mailbag right here on the Sports Bash. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, there you go. Frank has the mailbag on Tuesdays, and Phillies have a game on Tuesday night. It is against the Marlins, and the Phillies lineup is out, as we told you there. It's pretty much a normal lineup. A right-handed pitcher tonight, so you got all your lefties in the lineup, including Marsh, by the way. Lineup is Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Adolis Garcia in right field. Brandon Marsh is in left field. JT Realmuto behind the plate. Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Justin Crawford. There is your Phillies lineup today. Brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, a trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, and installation. 390-3907 in the 609. Online, broadleafs.net. When we come back, it is today's edition of Nick's Nuggets. That's next. Stick around. watching the Phils with all the playoffs, although the Phils have center stage tonight against the Athletics. Flyers lose in overtime. Sixers were done pretty much by halftime last night. Time for the Nuggets right now on the Sports Jeff on the show right now. Adam Caplan joins us. We got a little into the NFC East conversation last week. Adam will dive back into that today. What's going on, man?
Yeah, Mike, you hinted at the divisional odds, and I want to discuss them and expand it further. Because we talked about this 2 months ago, and I said after the draft we'll talk about it. Well, here we are. We're after the draft. There's really nothing going on Eagles-wise other than some very minor roster moves. The rookie camp, Mike, there's literally no competition going on. What you look for there is, this is what in covering the business 27 years, this is what I look for. How are the players from a mental standpoint? Are they behind or where they should be? That you try to assess and look into. You're not going to, like a reporter doesn't go to practice and know this. There's no way they would know this. You have to ask about it. But it's something as we get closer to training camp, we'll take a look at some of these kids. And just so you know, almost, not all, but a majority of the players at the rookie camp will not be on the Eagles roster this fall. Just understand that.
Yeah, and obviously everybody is generally like, well, how did Lemon look? Or when you have skill position
Yeah,
players.
the draftees will be there, but that's almost all of it. But the one thing, though, as we talked about on our Monday morning show, which you get on all platforms, we broke down the undrafted free agents. Now, the Eagles have a history of these guys making it. Darius Cooper was a great story. Was not even invited to an All-Star game last year. Now, forget Combine. He wasn't even invited to an All-Star game. It's extremely rare for that type of situation to happen and a player make it. We'll take a larger look at the undrafted class as we go along here, but the divisional odds, Mike, is where you can make some money. I'd see some money to be made with some of this stuff.
All right, let's dive into that because obviously everybody in the offseason form, we've got the mini camps and stuff coming up. But right now, the offseason free agency kind of behind you, draft now in the rear view, some tweaks to the roster still to come. But where did that put these teams now post-draft?
Yeah, so the odds makers see it like I do. The Eagles are the favorite, but they're not it's not like, Mike, the Eagles are, minus 220 or minus 110. They're still plus money at plus 105, which means if you put up 100, you get your $100 back, plus you get 105 back. So you get some money back if you like the Eagles. They're going to be the favorite going into the season. There's no way around it. Now, as long as they don't suffer a major injury in training camp or the preseason, they're going to be the favorite. Now, so to win the NFC East, they're the favorite at plus 105. To make the playoffs, even stronger odds if you think they're going to make the playoffs. At minus 200, yes. No, if you think they're going to come up short of expectations, you're getting plus money at plus 165. So this has nothing to do with the Cowboys or Commanders or the Giants because you can make it as a wild card. But if you think that they're not going to make it either as division winner or wild card, you get plus odds at plus 165.
I like it. And obviously, as you just kind of said, too, the Eagles plus 105 to win the East and to make the playoffs 165. But, it's maybe not the clear-cut favorite in the NFC East. Oddly, I think we talked about this last week. Dallas is the next closest team to win the East at plus 230, and I think their odds are very interesting after our conversation last week.
All right, a couple things about Dallas. They're the only team in the division is bringing back all 11 starters. Okay, that means something. They have a really good offense. It's their defense. It's been mostly non-competitive for 3 seasons now. Dallas will run the Fangio defense on a Christian Parker. They'll get Quinnen Williams for a full season, Kenny Clark for a full season, Rashawn Gary over in the trade, made a trade for D. Winters, who's a marginal starter, a linebacker, coming over from the 49ers where the Cowboys were terrible at linebacker last season. Their secondary was a total mess. Then a Jalen Thompson safety. Kobe Durant, he's more of a third corner. From the Rams, he may start. Caleb Downs, who could play nickel, he could play safety. He's got a lot of versatility. Devin Moore, who I know Greg Cosell, who worked for us at Inside the Birds, you know him from NFL Films. Greg liked him. He's a fourth-round corner from Florida. Yeah, so they've had an interesting offseason. They've added talent, no doubt about it. But you just because you add a lot of talent doesn't mean you're going to be great. Now, the odds makers have them to win the NFC East at plus money, plus 230. So if you bet 100, you get your 100 back, and you get $230. So they're a long shot. To make the playoffs now, this is interesting. They're only plus 100, which kind of is odd to me. Like, and we'll get to their win total. We have to do the Eagles win total also later. But they're plus 100 to make the playoffs. To not make it, they're minus 120, which I'm not bullish on the Cowboys. I've heard great things about Christian Parker. I worry about the talent with that team. The thing, Mike, why have they not been competitive? The football character, they've lacked that. They've gotten better football character players in there, and that'll help. But until they prove it, they haven't done it yet. They're minus 120 not to make it, where I would agree with that. Their win total, Mike, this is what is interesting. Their win total, the over, Mike, the over is plus 135, the under is plus 125. To me, there are around 8 or 9 wins. So the money right now is the money is now it's slightly on the there's more money being invested now on the over. That's why it's very tight, Mike. They're plus 135. If I could take one of them, it would be the under. I just don't think, Mike. I don't think I'm not buying them. I'm not buying them, to be honest with you.
Interesting. I know last year, as you mentioned, their offense with Pickens, and they added.
He's still there.
Yep. Well,
still
yeah,
there.
and they have, as you said, they're very all 11 guys are back there now, so they have that full year of their defense. They made some trades last year. It's gonna be interesting to see Downs in that defense. They traded Pickens and got Lawrence halfway through the season, so we'll see if their defense could get better. That number is over under 8.5 for Dallas for the win total. They're plus 230 to win the NFC East. But correct me if I'm wrong. On Friday when we spoke, you like Washington's numbers.
Well, I like the Giants, Mike. I like the Giants. So let's go over that. Let's do the Washington first. To win the NFC East, yeah, they're a long shot at plus 500. I do like them to bounce back. Look, they were so beat up. Now, one of the things that they did, which was bad, they knew they made a mistake. Adam Peters, the GM, admitted it. They were the oldest team in the National Football League, especially defensively. Well, they've corrected that. They had a bullish offseason with younger players added. They're plus 500 to win the division. To make the playoffs, they're plus 225, yes. Against, they're minus 275. I mean, look, they're a long shot to do anything, to be honest with you, in terms of making the playoffs. But 8 wins is realistic. I see a big bounce back. The win total, the over is minus 130, so the money's on the over. A lot of it's being bet over. That's why it's minus 130, and the under's plus 110. Yeah, I do like the over. I have to admit it. I do like the over, 7.5. And then the Giants, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mike?
7.5 is the over there for Washington, who was banged up last year, big time.
They were. Worst injury situation by far in the NFC East, and they had the third most amount of injuries, games missed in the National Football League. So that's bad. Now the Giants. This is the one I like. Now, let me explain this one. Let me go through it. To win the NFC East, they're plus 700. No, I'm not picking them to win the division. Plus 260 to make the playoffs, minus 325. No, so everything is on the under, okay? Everything, is on the they're not going to make it. The win total, plus 100 is the over. Under 7.5 is minus 120, so it's being bet under. I like the over plus 100. John Harbaugh, like his brother Jim, shocked the world in year one. I see John Harbaugh doing the same thing. I really like the Giants to surprise people. And I know in your area, Mike, I know the Giant fans listening, I really like the offseason they've had. Not only the coach, the type of offense they're going to bring in, but the offseason in terms of adding talent. The one issue that I have with them is they did not add a significant piece at running back. That concerns me. Cam Scatterbo is coming back from a major injury, the ankle dislocation, very bad knee, ankle injury, leg injury. Tyron Tracy's a changeup. Devin Singletary he's a backup. They didn't add anyone of note, Mike. That's a problem for me. That's one issue. They adjust the offensive line. Malinois, Illuminor will stay at right tackle. Isaiah likely at tight end, is a super athlete, could run, can catch. Patrick Ricard, the fullback coming from Baltimore with Harbs. Several changes on defense. I like them to be the big surprise this season.
And I think a lot of people are in the same boat as you're in, is Harbaugh, and that gives them instant credibility, something that they've really lacked at that, at the head coaching role for, my God, so going back to what? what's his name? Man, I completely blanked on Coughlin, Tom Coughlin. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
sure.
they really haven't had a high, I don't say high profile, but like a really good head coach since Coughlin. They took a lot of shots with Joe Judge and some others.
Yeah, Joe Judge, Mike, who's from Philly, from Lansdale area. I mean, he's a really good college assistant coach. He's not NFL head coach.
McAdoo.
What's that?
McAdoo.
Yeah, Ben Malk with the big suit when he got introduced. And it isn't funny that the Eagles wanted him badly, and I remember talking to them at the time. They tried to get him to turn around off the Jersey Turnpike. He did not, and thankfully for them, he did. And it's funny how things work out. You never really know. But, yeah, to me right now, the Giants are my upset special. The Eagles, by the way, Mike, we should finish it off. We didn't talk about it. Their win total is 10.5. So it's interesting that the odds aren't like the just to win the division. They're not too different from the other teams, but the win total is 10.5. The over is plus 110. The money it's being bet. That's why it's minus 130 on the under. So that most people think there'll be around 10 wins. Yeah, it's so hard to figure out. Like Jeff and I did a show today on the Eagles quarterback depth, and we do a depth chart contract show and the outlook on it based on the people we spoke to around the National Football League. There's not a lot of optimism that this Eagles offense will work. It's not that it's not a good scheme, which it's a complete departure than whatever Hurts has played in. It's that Hurts just won't be able to function well enough. I'm in the minority. I think it will, because I know that Jalen will know as soon as he starts practicing later this month that based on what he knows and based on what he's going to see on the field, the ball's got to come out quickly. I just feel like this is it. He's got to do it. We'll see if it happens, Mike, but there are questions around the National Football League whether this Eagles offense is going to work with the quarterback.
Well, that will be a very interesting storyline, obviously, throughout. One storyline on each before we get you out of here. Dallas up to 6 new starters on defense. I mentioned Lawrence. He was the draft pick. Quinnen Williams is who they traded for in the middle of last year. But they got Malachi Lawrence that they drafted. They've got Caleb Downs that they drafted. Quinnen Williams that they added from last year. We'll see what Azaraku does in the second round. But they're going to have a completely new look there. And then, we talked about Washington, something different for them. Last year they had like Deebo Samuel. They went with a whole, they got rid of Cliff Kingsbury. So they're going to have a new look on offense as well. So the Giants might be the team that everybody's kind of sleeping on, as these numbers kind of indicate.
Yeah, they do. And look, Washington, they feel really good about their offensive line. They're going to bring back most of their starters. They have a new tight end, Chigakonkwo. They have 2 new running backs. They've got a lot of new defensive players. You also have to understand, when you have a lot of roster upheaval, it doesn't always work, and it takes time for it all to gel. But I like how they're going to bounce back. The division, here's what we'll leave you with this, Mike. The division's going to be more competitive. I'm just telling you, it's going to be more competitive. How much more depends on a lot of factors. Injuries, of course, maturity of the players, all the new. When you look at, as you said, Washington's a new play caller, a first-time play caller, like Sean Mannion, who's really new to this, new to coaching. So you never know quite how that David Blau, who's only in his 3rd year coaching. I mean, that's really small. Giants with Harbs, Dallas with the new coordinator. Look at all the coaching upheaval in the division.
Should be fun to keep an eye on it all. And, of course, you can do it at the Inside the Birds podcast on all podcasting platforms and right here during Football at 4, all off-season long, into training camp and through the Eagles season on the Sports Bash. Adam, thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, Adam Caplan, of course, our Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. They got a whole bunch of entertainment, and you can check out their entertainment schedule at the oceanac.com. Matt Wright, Friday, July 24th and 25th. Joey Diaz on August 7th, and Sebastian Maniscalco from September 17th through the 20th and the 24th through the 27th. That's what's happening at Ocean Casino Resort. 609-403-0973. That is the text board. Got a couple text messages we got coming in from the segments throughout the show, and, of course, our Football at 4 as well. Jeff chimes in. He says, I keep thinking, what has John Harbaugh done since the 2012 season? He had talent. He had failed multiple seasons. Now I'm supposed to think he's going to come into a less talented team and have success right away. That move is overrated. You know, Jeff, I've been saying something similar about Harbaugh in that I feel like Harbaugh reminds me a lot of when the then Redskins, now Commanders, hired Rivera. And Rivera had been to a Super Bowl with the Panthers, and people had said, oh, wow, they went out and got this credible head coach. Washington had always lacked credibility. Like, it was just like a team that always seemed like didn't have an adult running the organization. This was the previous ownership, by the way. And they went out and got Rivera, and was like, okay, they went out and got a guy who had been to a Super Bowl and had been well respected. And everybody thought Washington's going to turn it around all of a sudden. It never happened. And I think Harbaugh's more accomplished than Rivera. But here's the big question. One, the Giants obviously have the quarterback. They think they have the quarterback, Jackson Dart. What is Jackson Dart? Now, I wasn't the biggest Dart guy. I think he exceeded my expectations and kind of outperformed what I had thought for him. But is he the franchise quarterback? Is he a franchise quarterback, or is he kind of a flash-in-the-pan guy? Can he stay healthy? All of that stuff. They talked about Scadaboo. Scadaboo was a big part of that team. I mean, he was exciting. He was tough. How's he? That was a gruesome injury. Do they have enough weapons? Well, last year, obviously, they lost their wide receiver, and you never really got a chance to see. So they have the makings of an opportunity here with young pieces. The quarterback, the running back, and the wide receiver. And when you talk Neighbors, by the way, so you got Dart, you got Scadaboo, you got Neighbors. What's that offensive line going to look like? Is it just going to be a team? Because realistically, is Jackson Dart for Harbaugh his New York version of Lamar Jackson? Scadaboo, they've had a bunch of different running backs in Baltimore. They never had a really good wide receiver out there. He has likely here. He brought the tight end with him. What kind of offense are they going to have? They had defensively, though, I was really surprised they passed on Caleb Downs. He had Ed Reed. You had Hamilton. He had a chance to really set the tone at that position with this team. Now, Reese, they've beefed up their pass rushing. They've invested in pass rushing the last couple of years. I don't think Thibodeau, I think, has turned into a little bit, I don't want to say a bust. Carter, you drafted him high. I don't want to say a bust, but you've invested so many high picks. Brian Burns, you traded for. They should be able to get to the quarterback. That's going to be the big thing I always said last year, I remember having the conversation, the Giants' defense, the team might not be good, but they're going to be a pain in the ass to play because of all the pass rushing. Now, I wonder if, like Adam said, their over-under for win is 7.5. Last year, what they win? 3 games, 4 games? 4 games they won last year. Is having Harbaugh enough to be the adult in the room and coupled with this defense enough to kind of get them 3.5 extra wins, really. 4 wins. That remains to be seen. Good conversation. Love breaking down the NFC East because I think, as those numbers indicate, the Eagles are the favorite, but 10.5 over-under on the win total. And it's not like they are far and away the favorite when you take a look at those numbers. What did he say it was? Plus 105 to win the NFC East. So, I mean, you're still making a little money. It's not like they're minus money. It's not, minus 215 for them to win the division. It's still plus 105, so it's not a gimme for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, more football, of course, football at 4 every day on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Hey, don't forget my friends at Clark's Moving and Storage down in Rio Grande. Let me tell you, if you're thinking about a big move this summer, maybe one of your kids is graduating from college, and you want to help get their stuff from their college apartment home, call Clark's. They moved my house from Ventnor to the mainland back in 2019 when I made my big move, and here we are in 2026 we're still happy with the job that they did. Clark's Moving and Storage. Call today, 609-889-0780. Online, clarksmoving.net. Clark's an authorized agent for Wheaton Worldwide Moving, so they can move you across the country or even around the world. When we come back, it's today's Phillies Fastball segment. Oscar and Jeff jump into the conversation. Phillies making some news today. Johan Duran has been activated. That is coming up next. All right, 4:30. Coming up, Phils and Athletics. Phillies Fastball brought to you by Ventnor Social, the place to catch every Phils game, including tonight. Phillies Fastball. We told you to line up earlier today. Nothing crazy. Mostly the same as they've been rolling out there for the most part as we've come to know them. Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Adolis Garcia, Brandon Marsh, JT Realmuto, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Justin Crawford. It is Christopher Sanchez on the mound tonight for the Phils against the Athletics. Their lineup, Wilson, Brent Rooker, Nick Kurtz, Colby Thomas, Zach Geloff, Tyler Soderstrom, Austin Wins, Daryl Hernandez, and Brett Harris. Luis Severino goes tonight for the A's, but we want to talk about the guy who pitched last night for the Phils. It was Aaron Nola. How about that, Aaron Nola? Boys, Oscar and Jeff are back for today's Phillies basketball, and that's where I want to start. You got the Harper homer, but it was the sixth-inning, no walks, shutout ball by one Aaron Nola last night. Let's start there, guys. What did we think?
It was very special. I mean, that was the Aaron Nola that we've seen in the past coming back to life. Hopefully the magic with Stubby made it happen. I mean, the combination of those two have done it in the past. And look, very smart of Mattingly and the staff deciding to bring Stubby to catch him. And look, that was magical yesterday.
Yeah, look, that was the best performance I've seen of Aaron Nola since 2023. I mean, since 2024, we're going to be honest. You needed that last night because this team was not hitting. They got one hit from Bryce Harper. That was a home run. That was, by the way, 370 career home runs. Congrats, Bryce Harper. But outside of what Oscar's got highlighted there, Bryce Harper and Adolis Garcia, you really didn't have much to work with last night. I mean, this was a pitcher's duel. Junk was great. Nola was great. Look, I got to give credit to Nola. I got to give credit to the bullpen, too. Tanner Banks did his job. You weren't sure what you were going to get. Jose Alvarado did his job. You weren't sure what you were going to get. Brad Keller's still a little shaky, but he did get the save. So the bullpen did their job. The bullpen's been top 12, top 13 in ERA, top 10 in FIP since Magley's taken over. They're pitching better. Starting pitching's in the top 5 in every major category that at least I consider. Since Tom Magley's taken over, the pitching has been carrying this team, guys, and that's why they won 6 and 7.
Absolutely.
And you're supposed to hopefully get Duran back so Keller can go back to the 8th inning, Duran in the 9th. But you're right. You look at Banks' ERA, 6.08, Alvarado, 6.17. You hope those things start to lower and level out and they can get this bullpen back together. The starting pitching's starting to come around. But, guys, as Jeff, you just mentioned, you had 5 hits from Harper and Garcia, 2 hits the rest of the night, 1-0 game. Yes, it's nice you won, but, again, the offense continues to be an issue. We got 2 guys. Bryson Stott, 198. Alec Boehm, 157. I guess you got to ask, how much longer can they stick with Boehm? I know he had a bad April last year, but he started to turn the page in May. How long do they give Boehm struggling the way that he is?
Look, to me, they become platoon players. That to me is a way around this. When you look at the last week, Alec Boehm is hitting last week, okay, 158. Alec Boehm 158, and then Bryson Stott 143. I mean, I know Bryson Stott hit 2 home runs, and I know that Miami, he has the number on Miami, but the reality is if this guy's continue hitting that way, they're hitting their way out of this team. I mean, you cannot continue with those 2 prime positions producing at this level. That's the bottom line. And Sosa needs to play more. Sosa over the last week in 3 games, he hit 333. I give more of a chance to Sosa than the way he's getting.
Yeah, I definitely think Amundo Sosa should be platoon with Bryson Stott. And when Bryson Stott plays against a righty, maybe that's when you put him in for Alec Boehm. You find a way to play Amundo Sosa. I mean, really, that's your only option. I can't think of any option you play, right? Felix Reyes can't play second. He can't play third. So what do you do? It seems like it's got to be more Amundo Sosa.
I was going to say the problem there, and you guys can speak on this, is you expose Sosa more, then he struggles. So they got to figure something out here because Bohm's 157. You can't have a 157 guy in your lineup every single day. Otto Kemp's struggling at AAA. He's not a great defensive player. So it doesn't look like they have a lot of options here other than maybe Bohm turning this thing around. But does anybody see any evidence that Bohm is ready to start, and I've been a Bohm guy throughout his career. I like Bohm's approach and the way that he goes gap to gap. He doesn't strike out, but he just looks lost.
And you know what's crazy? I think mentally, he's in a better place right now. I mean, there's a lot of off the field stuff going on with him, but I've seen him the last couple of days before they went to Miami. I thought he was in a better spot. So maybe that's out, but the production's not there. This is what I want to ask you guys. I know Carter Kieboom's on the 40-man roster, and I know what we saw of him at the major league level is not very good, but this guy was a top 50 prospect at one point. You would have to maneuver a couple things, but do you guys think maybe he's the solution?
I don't think he's the solution. I've seen him play. I don't think he's the solution. I saw him when he played for the Washington Nationals, and I mean, they try him everywhere, and the guy couldn't. I mean, he couldn't hit. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to hit. And that's what we need. I mean, Alec Bohm has been playing good defensively. We talked about this yesterday. Look, we're 6-1 with Mattingly. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Donnie Baseball have done his part. But the reality is that the pitching is carrying the way right now, the starting pitching, since Wheeler came back. I mean, has been our card. We've seen Luzardo turn around. I mean, two major starts. Christopher, I want to see more consistent from him. But the reality is that outside of Harper, which, I mean, you got to give it to Harper. Harper he's playing.
Have a great year.
He's played really well this year. I mean, anybody else in that lineup, I mean, it's up and down. I mean, Crawford is now heating up again a little bit, which is great to see. But Turner, I mean, hitting 236. I mean, this was a 300 hitter last year. I mean, Schwarber goes in this spells and he struck out for 3 straight games and he hit 2 home runs in one game, and then his OPS skyrockets again into the 900. So it's fascinating to look at.
This is where Don Mattingly's going to be tested, right? Because whenever we would ask Rob Thompson about maybe giving these guys a sit or a reset, he'd go, well, I'm going to point to the numbers on the back of the baseball card. Does Don Mattingly think the same way? Is Don Mattingly going to give these guys maybe 10 games, the 10 games they wanted, and say, hey, you're not performing even though we're winning? That's what I'm curious about. So I've seen some of the changes they're making on the field, off the field when I was there last week. I'm curious to see what happens this week with this team. But I got to give the players a lot of credit here. They thought they could win 7 or 8 of the 10 games in this stretch. And right now they're 6-1. You win 2. That's 8-2. That's what they thought they were going to do.
You just said some of the things off the field, Jeff, that have changed. What are some of the little things off the field that you are noticing that maybe is helping them out? Because I thought Bryce Harper said something pretty interesting last night that was an eye-opening. We'll get to that in a second. But what are some of the things that you're seeing different that they're doing with Mattingly that maybe they weren't doing with Thompson that is helping them turn the corner?
Well, if you're watching like batting practice, they're spending the extra 5 minutes bunting, squeezing, doing PFPs. Don Mattingly's, it's little things too. Like I noticed this as a medium. Rob Thompson would talk right after the clubhouse opens, right? Right when the clubhouse closes, Don Mattingly's not talking until 30 minutes after. You know why? Because I think Don Mattingly's at first base. I think that's what he's working with stuff with them, and again, this the whole Nick Castellanos thing. Well, I want to hear from an actual major league player. I believe that's a bunch of BS, but that's what some guys maybe respond to. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but it is different seeing Don Mattingly play first base. It is different seeing Don Mattingly kind of talk to these guys, and not that Rob Thompson didn't do that. It's just it's a different approach. It's a different mindset. It's just little things that I'm noticing. And again, different strokes for different folks. But overall, though, it's still the same message. It's still the same demeanor, the same clubhouse.
There is a big part of this that, to me, is critical for Mattingly based on his story and who he is and what Donnie Baseball is all about, which is hitting. I mean, I want to see his ability to be able to teach hitting to this guy so they can have a better approach at the plate versus chasing so many pitches. And that is a big issue right now. I mean, I was not too keen of the comments that he made the last couple of days saying, I don't know anything about pitching. And yesterday comparing Greg Maddux with Aaron Nola. I mean, let me put it this way. You got to see Greg Maddux pitch. I mean, that guy was, out of this world.
And you know what? I don't believe that either when Don Mattingly says that, because you were a 300 hitter in your career. You definitely know something about pitching.
You know something about pitching. So I want to see him.
Just for the listeners, they're referring to Jim Salisbury asked, what has he seen differently in the last couple starts for Luzardo? And he said, quite frankly, I don't know. I don't know anything about pitching. So he said he couldn't tell if it was a mechanical thing. I said, could you imagine if Rob Thompson said, I don't know anything about pitching?
Yeah, exactly. They would have crushed him for that.
He would have been absolutely roasted for a comment like that.
I think Rob Thompson, and again, I know it's been a week, but I just feel like he had the pulse of everything. He knew every little detail about everybody and every little thing. I don't know if Don Mattingly knows that or not. Maybe Don Mattingly is focusing on the hitting and Caleb Cotham's focusing on the pitching. That's what I like to find out over the next couple weeks.
Well, this to
me, sorry, Mike. This to me is very similar to how the Eagles run their ship, where Mattingly should focus on the hitting, and then you have Cotham focusing on the pitching. That's the way kind of I see it.
Well, Harper said something last night, which I thought was pretty unbelievable. He says, quote, I think we were all just waiting for that ball to drop, waiting for something to happen. If Topper was going to get fired or he wasn't, it was just kind of, we need to get over this hump and get through this. I mean, it's almost as if they were like, are you going to fire this guy so we can move on or what? Like,
you know what?
That was a pretty unbelievable.
I'll back Harper on this. Just speaking to players, it felt like they were waiting for that shoe to drop, right? It was like, look, we don't want this guy to lose his job, but they felt like something was going to happen. Like they could sense it, and they could definitely sense it during that Braves series.
Well, how about trying to save the guy's job by playing better?
Exactly. I agree 100%.
You know what? I'm telling you, these guys chalked it up as the Cubs were hot and the Braves were hot, and there was nothing they could do.
So outside, I mean, Dombrowski came out and said, we look at 40 games, that they weren't thinking about changing the manager. So did the players not take that into account to say, we don't believe you, something's either going to happen here or it's not? Like, that comment.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Ooh, that comment
really
to me.
That's what it was.
That's very unfair. To be honest with you, that's very unfair and very unprofessional of players to think that way. Look, it's what is it? A threat on Topper after what he did for the team. I mean, look, as I told you before, they didn't want him to lose
his job.
If you wanted to make this move, you should have made this move last September or last October.
Well, they should have, but
that's when you should have made the move. Not now. I mean, you gave the guy another year to be able to prove himself. You started 9-19, then you were going to the soft part of the schedule. When you needed to, you were not facing the Cubs or the Braves that we said before, and the guy loses a job, and now, okay, great. Hey, the only one that is hitting is Harper, by the way. The only one that is hitting is Harper.
Yep. And I'm trying to tell people this. Players win and lose games, not the manager.
The other thing, he did not have the benefit of the doubt to have Wheeler in the rotation, okay?
Correct.
I mean, Topper did not have the benefit of the doubt of having Wheeler. So since Wheeler have come in, this rotation have completely turned around.
He also didn't have this Jesus Luzardo or this Aaron Nola. I think one of the big things, and Oscar, you talked about it yesterday.
But did Nola having 8 days off help? Nola had 8 days off.
Yeah, he did.
Sure, but I'm saying, again, listen, the team's turned it around a little bit for whatever reason, but one of the reasons is Luzardo, his last 2 starts have been excellent. Nola, excellent here. You've got Wheeler back here. I still don't feel great about this lineup. Yes, they have scored runs, but I don't feel like, they have turned the corner, bones coming around. None of that looks like it's happening.
Have they scored runs on Saturday? They have 1 hit, and on Monday they scored 1 run.
And last night they scored 1 run. Yes, I know. So I agree. And by the way, the Phillies are 6-1 since firing Rob Thompson. The team is allowing pitching. Is allowing a 239 batting average and 2.6 runs per game after allowing a 286 batting average and 5 points. Pitching has been outstanding. But, guys, I still do not feel this offense is finally turned a corner. But because you're right, they're playing the Marlins. They're playing the Giants. This is not top-level competition right now.
But by the way, this is why the Phillies are 6-1. ERA, this is starting pitching stats. ERA, 1.85, third in baseball. FIP, 2.17, first. Ks per 9, 10.85, second. Innings pitched, 39, third. All of a sudden, you got guys going into the 6th and 7th inning. Luzardo's done it. Sanchez has done it. Nola pitched 6 innings. I mean, look, outside of the Andrew Painter game on Saturday, you've really gotten excellent starting pitching, and Painter battled just to even keep him in the game. So really,
here's the point. Here's the point. We know the pitching. We know the quality of the pitching staff. This team was built on a starting pitching. That was our core. Then we have Johan Duran. By the way, he's coming today, but he's coming back today, which is great news for us. So we had conceptually a better bullpen, or at least the back end of the bullpen should have been better this year than the last year. But we run it back on the hitting, and the reality is, what is this team? I mean, what this team right now? We were top 10 last year. We're not even close. I mean, we're on the bottom. I mean, look, what we are in terms of run scores, we're 26 in baseball right now. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, and it has to improve,
by the way,
okay?
Oscar, that 40 games that's coming up, so you have a good indicator of what this team's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, tonight they're going to take on an athletics team that I think if you're not paying attention, you just think, they're playing in Sacramento.
This
is a good team. This is a good team. Nick Kurtz reached base 28 straight, longest active on-base streak in Major League Baseball. You talk about young talent that is performing. The Athletics have that, something the Phillies do not have right now. They've got some exciting offensive guys. Luis Severino against Christopher Sanchez tonight. And, Oscar, you've got the Severino numbers highlighted. This could be another rough night for the Phillies offense.
Yeah, 2-0 Severino against the Phillies with a 2.84 ERA. He's pitched a couple of times. He started a couple of games at Citizens Bank Park, 1-0, 2.08. Harper has I remember broadcasting this. I mean, when Harper hit the home runs in the postseason when he was with the Mets. So, look, Harper has his number, but the reality is that Severino has done really good here. The good thing is we're going with Christopher Sanchez. What version we're going to get of Christopher Sanchez? Christopher Sanchez is much better at home than away. Yeah. That has been his career number. So I'm expecting a big, big game from Christopher Sanchez tonight.
You know what? Yes. The starting pitching lines up for the Phillies in this series. If you got Sanchez, you got Wheeler back. And look, the A's are countering a good punch here. Severino and Springs. We know the Phillies do against lefties. But to me, this is where I'm – how can I say it? Thursday is the wild card, right? Because you don't know what you're going to get of Andrew Painter. You can get good Andrew Painter. You can get Andrew Painter with no command. Andrew Painter walking everybody. It's, I'm curious to see how Thursday's game goes.
I think you're going to see everything from Andrew Painter. You're going to see some innings and some at bats of hitters where he looks absolutely filthy, and others where you're going to see inconsistency. That's the reality of being a rookie.
By the way, Sanchez allowed multiple runs in each of his last 5 starts, tied for the longest in his career, 7-16 in 40 starts when he has allowed multiple runs over the last 3 seasons. He was 19-0 in 30 starts when he allows 1 or no runs. Obviously, he's pitched really well, but that has been the problem with Sanchez this year. He hasn't been nearly as consistent as the guy that we have come to know.
Yeah, that's a reality. I mean, Christopher Sanchez, when you look at his base hits, and the combination of base hits and base on balls, he has not had the command of his pitches that he needed. And as we spoke yesterday, his changeup is still elite in the sense that the batting average against it has gone to 238 from 170 last year. But both his sinker as well as his slider are no way to be found. Hitters are hitting above 300 in both of those pitches. So he needs to find his way. I just have a feeling that him together at Citizens Bank Park, seeing what Luzardo has done, seeing what Wheeler has done, and what Nola did yesterday, I think this guy's going to have a hell of a game today.
All right, boys. The Phillies take on the A's, the Athletics, if you will. They will be home for this series coming up here. So Phillies trying to get back on track. And by the way, they've been overshadowed a little bit by the Flyers and the Sixers playing. So maybe this has kind of been a good thing for them to go under the radar. But they have the night to themselves tonight, right? If you've been watching the Flyers and the Sixers playoffs and haven't got a chance to kind of check in, they have kind of played. They got themselves some wins here. I don't know that they've played better baseball, though. That's the question, guys. Are we watching a team that's winning games by playing better baseball, or are they just winning games but still not playing better baseball?
I think the pitching is leading the way. You see what Wheeler has done, 2.45 ERA, Sanchez at 2.90. Now Nola has, basically raised a run yesterday with that performance. He's now at 5.06. Luzardo at 5.09. Look, we've seen significant better pitcher. If this four guys can hold his team, we're going to be in good shape. Because the hitting is going to carry you. Look, you won 1-0 yesterday. It doesn't get. We didn't hit anything. Harper was the only one hitter, and together with Garcia, that was about it. And you were able to win the game. So if, for example, Sanchez today is, only allows a run or two, you have a great chance to winning that game because the pitching is carrying the way. And today, a very important piece of this equation. Duran is coming tonight. Duran is coming back from the disabled list. That's going to be huge for this bullpen. Huge.
All right. Well, we got another Phillies fastball segment tomorrow. Join us back for that. Phillies have the night to themselves. Flyers and Sixers are off. 6-1 under Donnie Baseball. The pitching has led the way. And obviously, the Phillies looking to stay hot. They haven't closed a lot of gap, though, in the National League East with the Braves. But got to keep stacking wins, boys. Got to keep stacking wins.
Hi to Luis and Darwin, dear friends of the family. So, hey, let's keep it going. And look, the best is yet to come. So hopefully we continue. Donnie Bates will continue to do his magic. So, hey, by the way, Topper, when he started, he was 8-0. Mattingly 6-1, so he hasn't topped Topper yet.
Well, hey, listen, we're all rooting for Donnie Baseball. I don't care who's managing the team because, as Jeff said, the players have to play better. It's not the manager that wins and loses these games. And you got a good streak of games here. By the way, the Braves did lose last night, so the Phillies did close within 9. So they're under double digits at least in that category. All right, Oscar, Jeff, we'll do it again tomorrow.
Go Phils.
Go Phils is right. Thanks, Oscar and Jeff. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow right here on the Phillies Fastball, and it is brought to you by Ventnor Social. We do Phillies Fastball each and every day with the guys right here. Jeff is, of course, covering the Phillies for 97.3 ESPN.com. Oscar, their Spanish broadcaster for years, very plugged into the Phillies, both of those guys that will do Phillies Fastball. Tomorrow, Phillies and A's tonight, the lineup. As we told you for tonight, Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Garcia. Brandon Marsh is hitting 5th tonight, followed by JT Realmuto, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, and Justin Crawford. That is your Phillies lineup tonight for Christopher Sanchez, the lefty, taking on the Athletics. All right, next hour, what happened to the Sixers and Flyers last night? We'll dive back into the 2 losses. Who do we feel better about moving forward? Plus, our Phillies insider, Kevin Durso, joins us tonight at 5:30 on the Sports Bash.
trying to drag it to the net. A shot by Taylor Hall. The loose puck. Hall scores. It bounces free, and Taylor Hall bats it home. His third goal of the playoffs, and the Canes win it in overtime.
Back out to Brunson, rising at the horn, and that's good. What a half for New York. Jalen Brunson makes it 74-51.
That's the way it went down last night. Flyers lose in overtime. Sixers lose from the jump. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill with you. Of course, till the top of the hour. We got another hour of show left to go. You get involved. 609-403-0973 on the White Horse RV text board. Your RV adventure starts here. A lot of texts. We can buzz through as many as possible throughout the rest of the hour here on the show. Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider, joins me at 5:30 tonight. We'll start off with the Sixers, who just got bombed last night. Bombs away. 51% from three for the Knicks last night. How many people watch that game and say, series over? Knicks are better. Or how many people watch that and say, okay, they got one. Good for them. Sixers lost by 32 to Boston. We were talking about in 1982, the Sixers lost to Boston by 40 in Game 1. They went on to win that series. It was the last time they had beaten Boston in a series prior to, this series here. So, yes, you can lose by 39 points and still win a series. It is possible. But there were some takeaways from the game last night that you should definitely take notice of. The Knicks are blistering hot right now. They shot 63%. It's their best in a playoff game since the 50s. They were unbelievable last night, and you got to tip your cap to the Knicks. This isn't, the Sixers played Saturday night, and I'm giving them a pass. The Sixers did not play well last night. Why didn't they play well? Well, the Knicks played really, really good. But is it a bad matchup, or is it just that, hey, one team played really well, the other team did not have it last night? And sometimes, look, when you don't have it, I talk about this often. You prepare for a moment. And when the moment gets there and the disappointment sets in that you don't have it in that moment, the moment gets away from you. Sometimes you don't fight and claw to try to keep it close. The disappointment hits you so hard that the game just completely gets away from you and you end up losing by 40. There's other times when your preparation keeps you in the game. You're working hard. You're implementing all the things that you worked on in practice, and you just don't have it. You're just not good enough. In this situation, it's not that the Sixers just aren't good enough. It's when opportunity is hit with with the preparation that you put in, and you notice we just don't have it tonight. The air gets let out of the balloon. And the next thing you know, you look up, and it's like a freight train just barrels through you. The Knicks right now are that freight train. They are barreling through people. They have outscored opponents by 119 points in their last 3 games. They're shooting it well. They're hitting everything they put up. And right now, the Sixers cannot match what the Knicks are doing offensively. They scored 140 the other night against Atlanta to close out that series. 137 last night. You're not doing that. You're not beating that team. So they got to figure out a way to slow the Knicks down. And I would imagine, and I talked about this yesterday, we brought this up in the 5 o'clock hour yesterday. One game, the Knicks are just going to shoot it ridiculous. Okay, check. That happened. One game, the Sixers are going to shoot it ridiculous. This is a journey. And the one game was last night for the Knicks. Now, if another game happens like that, that's 2. It's going to be tough to overcome if they shoot twice like that. You get it once, okay? You guys got your one. Now we get ours. When does the Sixers come? It can't be when it's 3-0 and then you shoot the lights out to make it 3-1. That doesn't do anybody any good. It's got to be tomorrow night. Tomorrow night. The Flyers don't play till Thursday night. Flyers get 2 days off in between because they're coming back from Raleigh to but there is no 2 days off in this series between the Sixers and the only 2 days off is between Game 6 and 7. So if you're looking at this series and saying it's over, then you haven't been watching these playoffs at all, right? You haven't been watching these playoffs, period, point blank. Every one of these series is having nights like this. Sixers lost by 32, not once but twice, and here they are, Boston's home. Right? Crazy. If you have one question about how the Sixers can, how the Knicks can wrap this thing up and really have, the advantage is, what are the Sixers doing with Brunson? What are the Sixers doing with Brunson? Because they haven't seemingly figured out what to do with him. He is constantly beat up on them last time they played. And Quentin Richardson, who is an ESPN NBA analyst, former guard, played with the Clippers. He's now an ESPN analyst, was talking about why Brunson is so good against the Sixers. What is it about that? What Brunson does against the Sixers that stands out that he constantly seems to be a bad matchup for them? Here's what Richardson said.
It's one of those things, man. I think he just likes this matchup. He likes playing against them. He plays well. I don't know if it has anything to do, with him going to Villanova and Philly and all of that. I don't know, but he definitely, like you say, by the numbers, he likes this matchup. And at some point, you would expect that next game or something, or sometime that Nick Nurse and the Sixers try to deploy some type of something different. They got to hit him or jump him and blitz him off of those screening rolls and take the ball out of his hand. Because right now, his comfort zone is at an elite level. He's just playing smooth basketball and knows what he wants to do. He's attacking where he wants to attack, and he's scoring when he wants to. And when somebody's going like that, you got to decide to double team him and hit him and take the ball out of his hand and make somebody else beat you. You just can't continue to let him score 35-plus points on you every night.
5 straight games, 35 points. 5 straight times against the Sixers that he has scored 35 points. There's another guy who's done it. Michael Jordan did it against the Sixers. I lived it. I watched it. Jalen Brunson right now is doing some Michael Jordan-ish against you. And you got to figure out a way to slow him down. I don't know how because as Richardson said, you got to maybe double him. You double him. The one thing that is, the Sixers were able to do in the series against the Celtics was they didn't really have to double. And the Celtics, Pritchard had his out-of-body experience one night. But other than that night, you didn't really have one of those secondary guys shoot the lights out against you. Hauser, Shireman, Pritchard, even White had, the one game in Game 7 where it was probably his best game. But you didn't have to double somebody. Are the Sixers going to have to come to terms with they might have to finally double Brunson because he scored 35 points against you now 5 straight times? So I definitely think that it'll be very interesting to see what Nick Nurse does here in Game 2. Obviously, what they did in Game 1 did not work. But it did not work. What did Nick Nurse say after the game? The Sixers lost by 32 at home. What was that, Game 4? It had to be 4 because they played Game 3, and they played tough in that game, but they lost. I think Game 4 they lost by 32. And Nick Nurse was asked about, he said something to the effect of, I don't know if what we're implementing is working because we're not really giving much of an effort. So that was Game 4. That's similar to last night. I don't know that the game plan worked because our effort was not very good from Jump Street. We basically played well for a quarter. I didn't say well. We played okay for a quarter, and then after that we just got tanked. They just kept scoring and making, and we couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And again, I said back in the 2 o'clock hour, if I was Nick Nurse last night, I wouldn't even have played my guys in the second half. I wouldn't even have played Embiid. I would not have played Maxey, Edgecombe, George, none of them. They would have sat and watched the entire second half. And I would have tried to find out whether or not anybody on my bench got a little fire lit under them and made Nick Nurse say, you know what? Right now, I got about a 6-man rotation. Does any one of you guys want to go out there and make me have to play a 7th and 8th guy? Could it have been maybe Justin Edwards gets hot, gets a little confidence? Maybe I don't really have very many options. That's one of the problems here. I mean, I'm stretching to say, can I get something? Jabari Walker's a guy that I think can help this team out because he rebounds. He's one of those guys that does the dirty work sometimes. He rebounds, tips, that kind of stuff. But I certainly, if I was Nick Nurse last night, I saw the way that game was going. And I saw the way that game was going quickly. I say, I'm going to punt tonight. Joel, everybody. Now, by the way, Joel Embiid is on the injury report for tomorrow. He's got a new injury that I have not seen in quite some time. Our buddy Adam Aronson, Sixers Adam, tweeted this out a little while ago as Sixers Adam tweets, the Sixers injury report tomorrow, Joel Embiid is on there with a right ankle sprain. And he says, Sixers Adam, that Embiid has had a right ankle issue dating back to late December, but this is the first time he's been on the injury report since December 27th. And it's the first time it's been mentioned officially since February 3rd, according to his notes. Now, I don't remember seeing an ankle injury or anything last night. I do remember seeing the whole him getting hit and leaning over, and then after the game, he's talking about dirty play. But that was a whole nother sideshow of this whole mess.
This is the second time that he's been designated with an injury that is not the injury we thought it was. Remember when he clashed knees with Maxey, and then the next game, he's listed with a hip issue.
Uh-huh.
It's like, wait a minute. Are we just like giving him like random injuries that are not the main injury now? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, well, I this ankle thing, I don't know where this came from. And
I don't remember an ankle injury in December.
Yeah, listen, with him, it could have been, who knows? It just wrapped into all the other injuries. But when, after the game, Joel, I don't know, you never know what to take from what he says.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if he was being serious or not. For those who didn't hear it, he basically made the comment that, that basically when Bridges, elbowed him, that he thinks that it was a targeted elbow. Mm-hmm. And that because of that, he says that that's basically how they're going to play. We need to play more physical.
Right. And, some people are insinuating that he's telling his team that they need to basically retaliate or be dirty or whatever. I take what Joel says with a grain of salt.
Listen, all I know is Mike Scott ain't walking through that door, so I don't know who you're getting to be the punishment for Bridges here.
Yeah, I listen. The way I compartmentalize this game is, it's in a box. The box has been put on the top shelf, and maybe at the end of the season, I open that box back up and look back at this game. But to me, that game is over and done with, and it has already been put away. If that's how if I'm the Sixers, I'm taking this game. I'm not even probably watching the video and looking back at anything. I don't know that I can take anything from it other than, hey, shake their hands. They shot 51% from three. I don't care how well you guys played in that game. You're not beating them tonight.
I would only disagree that part of the reason why I said it to you earlier, I'll say it again, they shot as well as they did because your defense was that bad. And so maybe...
Yeah, but even so, and I agree with what you're saying,
mm-hmm.
but even if you played good defense, if someone's going to make 51% of their shots,
sure,
that's a very,
Well, for example, you mentioned the game 4 against the Celtics. In that game, people who maybe didn't watch the game and I realize this, but the Sixers actually played good defense in that game. It's just the hand was in Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard's faces, and it didn't matter. The ball still went through the basket. So, yes, you're correct that there are many scenarios where you can play good defense and they still score. But some of those shots were made because they were getting wide open or guys were not rotating. And it was getting very frustrating to watch in the second quarter because it felt like the Sixers, they had played at least close enough in the first quarter to give you hope, and all hope died in the second.
All hope died in the second, but really all hope died, when this game started. I know the Sixers were kind of in the game. They were down, 8 throughout. What the first quarter end last night? I mean, if you watch just the first quarter, you'd say, okay, they're in this game.
Exactly.
You're right. And the second quarter started.
That's when the avalanche started.
You could see, by the way, in that first quarter, I don't know that the game looked lost. In fact, you can make a strong argument that there was some thought that the Sixers could get into the game. Why? Because Maxey did not show up in the first quarter at all. And you might be thinking to yourself, maybe Maxey and Embiid, maybe Maxey gets going here. We're kind of in the game, and maybe if Maxey can show up with us too, that would be helpful.
It would be helpful, yes.
But I think the Sixers are going to have to figure out the adjustment to Jalen Brunson. He attacked the pick and roll, and he's in rhythm. I mean, the Sixers sent 2 out to him, pick roll. You had Mitchell Robinson, coming way out, and he just absolutely used and abused. You had Robinson screening on Grimes. Grimes is out there on ice skates, and you got Brunson attacking perfectly here. That high pick and roll that I'm just going to say the Celtics, the Knicks used. They used it with Embiid on the floor. They tried to drop Embiid. That didn't work. It was almost like the way the Celtics tried to defend Maxey in the game. What was that, game 6 maybe, where they were dropping into coverage and Maxey was just crushing you. That's similar to the way the Celtics, the Knicks were utilizing the Sixers and exploiting them defensively last night.
So I just looked it up. So it was at the 2:30 mark of the first quarter. Maxey made the second free throw. I couldn't remember what time it was, but it was 2:30 in the first. They were down 24-21. So if you're watching the first quarter and you're coming up to the end of the quarter, you're thinking, you know what, for as rough as this game has been for the Sixers, they're still here. But from that moment on,
it was 44. What did you just say?
It was 24-21 with 2:30 in the first.
Okay, it was 44-33 with 7.5 minutes left. So you're down 11 in the second quarter. So you're still in the game. I mean, 11, okay, can I get a bucket and keep it right around here? From that point forward, about 7.5 minutes left to go in the half. It's a 11-point game. What were they down by half? 23?
I think it was 23-24.
You got destroyed from the 7.5 minute. So to say that they were completely out of the game from Jump Street, as I said, is incorrect. As I'm going back through the notes of this game, 7.5 minutes left in the game, or 7:50 or whatever it was. It's an 11-point game. And Maxey got a little bit more aggressive in the second quarter. They had the Knicks kind of dropping against him. You have Maxey getting downhill, and you cut it's an 11-point game. You're there. You can make 11 points mentally work. 23, yes. Different.
Huge difference.
Yeah. I don't know. I look at that game, and I definitely put it in the box of, okay, they were better than us last night for whatever reason. One day off for us, coming off an emotional Game 7, all that stuff, you can throw it in the box. That's a game that the Knicks have to win, right? The Knicks can't lose that game at home. And by the way, I'm going to say this. Here's what I think is the storyline in this series. How much pressure is on the Knicks now? They win the last couple games by 39, 51. We're talking about all these blowout wins they have, right? How much pressure is now mounting on the Knicks that they're the favorite in the East? They're winning by all these blowouts. And everybody is now expecting them to get to the finals. Can this group? Sal Licata was on yesterday's show, and he said, I don't trust this team. He watches them every single night. He said, I don't trust this team. And they are the clear favorite in the East now. That's a lot. We're going to find out if this team that he don't trust can handle that pressure.
They were saying something similar this morning on Get Up. Alan Hahn was on there. He covers the team, for the network up there. And he said that, he said, well, we seen for the Knicks last night. That's not who they are. He says they're not a team that shoots at a high percentage.
No, and that's why the last two nights people are like, where did this team come from?
But we said before the season, or the series started, there's going to be a game where the Knicks go off. Well, guess what? Last night, there you go.
Yeah. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Flyers last night, you heard the call. That's a gut punch, man. It's a gut punch. We're going to talk to Durso about it coming up at 5:30 tonight, but that's a gut punch. The fact that you lost that game in overtime when you had a 2-0 lead 5 minutes into the game, couldn't hold on, then outplayed them in the overtime and still couldn't get the job done. You had a breakaway, one-on-one, Konechny. Doesn't even hit the net. I thought Ristolainen had a rough night at the office. Power play, again, brutal. How many power plays, opportunities you had last night? 7? And couldn't get a goal?
That's why I said you have to wonder if Tippett played last night. Does that change one of those power plays?
I need a goal on the power play. It can't go over. 609-403-0973. When we come back, is that series, for all intents and purposes, done? Or did you take some encouragement from it? Kevin Durso covers the Flyers for 97.3 ESPN.com. And, of course, you can check him out on the Twitter X platform for all his Flyers coverage at Kevin_Durso. It's a Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. right, ugly one for the Sixers. The Flyers fought hard, but they also go down, up 2-0 after 5. They get to overtime. They basically outperform Carolina in the overtime. They outshot them in the overtime, but they come home down 2-0. And do you take some encouragement from that game last night, or is it a gut punch that feels like the end of the season is coming? Now, if they would have won that game last night, how would that have changed everybody's feeling and outlook? Kevin Durso covers the Flyers for 97.3 ESPN.com. He joins us now. You're up 2-0 in that game, Durso. It feels like, wow, you're holding on. They tie it up and send it to overtime. You're winning the overtime. You've got the shots on goal. You've got the chances. You get an unbelievable connecting opportunity. You don't put that one home. But yet you're still getting opportunities. 18-7, I think, was the shot. 18-9, something like that. And you end up losing that game. Is that the gut punch to lose that game the way you did? Or are you encouraged by what you saw to make you think that they can make this an interesting series still?
So I'm encouraged that they won't get swept. I'm not encouraged for the series. Like, it's clearly a gut punch for the series result. It's not. I don't think it means that you can't hang with this team to potentially make it more interesting along the way. Like, I don't see them getting swept if they play 2 more games that look like that. But I do think that you really needed that game to go your way, considering the sequence of events, the 2-0 lead, and the way overtime was played. You needed that game to go your way to kind of feel like you had a shot coming back to put your stamp on the series on home ice before going back on the road. So that's kind of how I take that.
Last night it's 2-0. All right, you have a 2-0 lead. Give me kind of your thought as Carolina gets the first to cut it to 2-1. How you give up the unanswered goals here, and you were on it. What changed after the 2-0 lead?
Well, for one, you gave them a power play opportunity, and you can't be hesitant with this team. And Rasmus Ristolainen has the puck on his stick with time to clear it, and hesitates and doesn't get the puck out. It's a brutal turnover that can't happen. So that's where that goes off the rails. For the most part, from there, they did a good job of keeping things to the outside as much as possible. There was a lot of shot attempts going on in the second period. Vladar plays great. Get into the third period, and really, Carolina's top line hasn't been able to get going. Rod Brindamore pulled Seth Jarvis off of that line and just tried him with different line mates. And it's going to happen on both the tying goal and the winning goal, the forward line that's on the ice. And I heard you talk about this earlier about the youth of the team. The forward line on the ice is 22-year-old Alex Bump, 21-year-old Denver Barkey, and 19-year-old Porter Martone. And the youth showed. You get caught in a transition rush on the game tying goal that Jarvis scores. And everything in the overtime goal kind of just collapses around the crease. Everybody backs in, kind of starts standing still a little bit. And it gave just enough time for the best line of the playoffs so far for Carolina to make a play. Stankoven gets that puck loose, jars it away from where Vladar's trying to cover it, and Taylor Hall's there to find it first and put it in the net before anybody can realize what's going on. So to me, the youth kind of came through a little bit there. It's a good experience for these guys to see what happens when you get into the thick of overtime against a true cup contender, maybe not a team that is kind of just a playoff contender like Pittsburgh was. This is a true cup contender, and they've showed it so far.
Obviously, Tippett did not play. He's been out. I don't know. Do you think that that would have been a guy that could have changed that particular style of game last night?
I think he could absolutely change the series just because he's your fastest player. To me, Tippett's absence in this series is very eye-opening for the people out there who are critical of his streaky scoring at times, that sit there and think he's a tradable player. I'm not saying he's not. Everybody's able to be traded in some way, shape, or form. But you take his speed out of this lineup and you see exactly what happens, and you see how much of a struggle it is for other guys who don't have that to keep up with a team like this. So I think it's absolutely a difference maker.
Obviously, you mentioned Ristolainen, and I said too, I thought he had a rough night last night, and he's played pretty well for you here. you look at what the Flyers, and you mentioned the sequence I was going to bring up as well. You have the 3 rookies out on the ice. Some of the things that Carolina was able to exploit, what kind of things can Rick Tocchet turn to as they come home now based on some of the deficiencies that cost them last night?
Well, I think what they can turn to more than anything is what was working early in the game, that you were strong on the forecheck, that when you go in and win some of those battles, you're able to create some opportunities. And really, if they want to take anything away from this game in particular, it's, if we look at overtime in any other situation, during the regular season, it's not the same thing. It's more of a glorified skills competition at 3-on-3. This is still 5-on-5. So play is the same really as it is in the 60 minutes of regulation. And you were actually hanging on to pucks more. You were retaining possession in the offensive zone. You were actually the team that was doing more of what Carolina had done for the first 6 periods leading up to that, even though you opened up the 2-0 lead in this game in particular. So I think that's the thing they can try to look into, is when you were playing with that urgency, when you were playing the way you did in overtime, you had the puck more often, and that allowed you to create more chances and get around the net a little bit more. I believe that all of a sudden it went from being kind of one of those lopsided, something around the likes of 33, 34 shots for Carolina in regulation to 21 for the Flyers. It all of a sudden became, you're watching and all of a sudden it's 37, 31. And it's like, okay, they've really trimmed the gap here in overtime. That makes it look way more competitive than seeing that lopsided shot total.
The one thing, and they did score a power play goal in the first on the Drysdale, but 1 for 7, and you're getting 7 opportunities to try to score with the man advantage, and they're unable to take advantage of that. That's just a tough mountain to climb if you can't score on special teams ever, essentially. Now, I know they got one on the Drysdale one there, but, man, is that frustrating, especially, you're getting opportunities late in these games, and you can't get anything going there. I don't know if you have an answer, I'm sure you don't, on how to fix their power play.
No, there's no real answer at this point. You keep getting opportunities, and it's just abysmal. To me, we've kind of known for a while now that this is going to be the thing that does them in. You get enough power play opportunities in the game and don't take advantage, that will cost you in a playoff series. And I think the encouraging thing here is that, if the Flyers were to just roll right through the playoffs and be this team on a magic run, it's still got that magical feel to it where you can have things, see things through orange colored glasses a little bit of how things went for the last 2 months and think everybody who's part of this is still part of the long-term solution. There's still things to fix. So if they don't win this series, they don't come back and make this series interesting, and you see the power play numbers, that's an area that Danny Briere can look at in the offseason and say, I need better. I need better personnel. We may need to make adjustments. That's something that costs us. Most of the time we have this conversation end of season and they don't make the playoffs, or they do and then get knocked out in the first round. The conversation usually starts with the goaltender. I don't think they have any questions about the goaltender now. So you can quite easily point to that area of the power play and say, it's got to be better going forward. I did the math on it earlier, and I believe that in the regular season, to get from dead last in the league, which they finished in the regular season, to middle of the pack, like 16th or something like that, they needed to score something like 13 more power play goals, which I don't think is asking too much in an 82-game season if you have the right personnel and you have a system that works. So I don't think it's too extreme to go from one year to the next and think, shoot your sights on being part of the middle of the pack at least, and it will look a lot more formidable if you're able to make it back to the playoffs.
By the way, they outshot Carolina 15-8 in overtime, and of course you have the connecting. What happens on that play there?
Well, so I know what the perception is, and you can choose to believe me or not based on what the NHL's stats say. Apparently, the shot was stopped by Freddie Anderson. He got a piece of it somewhere in there. Now, I know the angle on TV did not look like that. I assumed he missed it wide as well. Apparently, there was a save in there somewhere based on the stats. But either way, that's your golden opportunity to win the game. If anything, listen, whether it's a save or whether it misses the net wide or whatever, he does take the shot from a lot farther out than I think you'd like to see. I think you'd maybe like to get in on the goalie a little more, keep him thinking for even just another second, just to see if, are you going to make a move? Are you going to just take the shot? That can keep him guessing. Maybe you have a better opportunity there. But that's your main scoring chance more than anything. And so between this question that you asked me and the last one, there's your two reasons why you don't win the game in overtime. You had an overtime power play, which really should be where you try to end the game right then and there. And then you somehow or other end up with a breakaway on the team that's been the best defensive team in the playoffs and don't finish it either. So there's your opportunities.
Yeah, and obviously, you had an uphill battle, but you get up 39 seconds apart, you score 2, you're feeling like, wow, we got a shot here, and then it's 2-2, you go to overtime, and you really outplay them in the overtime period. I mean, you got looks, and 15 shots, can't get one to go. You just got to wonder how they're thinking flying back home now, having to sit 2 days to get ready for this next one, whether or not they feel like, hey, we went toe-to-toe with those guys and we can beat this team, or, man, we gave them our best shot and it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, and that's for the players to decide. I did like Rick Tockett's answer where, as we've talked about through the course of this run to even just get to the playoffs, that how many times have they been pronounced dead before and climbed out of the grave, as he put it. So that's the way they're going to think about it. Look, you are at least coming home with the chance to play in front of your fans and see if you can't make this interesting. It's not impossible for them to go out and win game 3 and give you something to think about in game 4. It's going to be an uphill battle for sure. And, right now, it's interesting. The last segment I heard you talking about how the Knicks are pretty much like, it feels like this is the time, right? Like they're the favorites now in the East. That's Carolina. Carolina's got to look at the 3 teams that made it alongside them and think, how do we not make this our time right now? So that's why it's such an uphill battle.
All right, well, obviously, 2 days off Thursday night. You can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Any other quirk or takeaway from that game that you witnessed or kind of observed last night to add to the way that game went? Because, again, it's a game where you felt like you were the better team for most of the night.
I mean, the overtime is what it is because we just witnessed it in reverse. Game 6 against Pittsburgh was all Pittsburgh for most of it, and then you get the one shot that goes in, and their season's over. Their goalie had played outstanding. It felt really weird to me to have to kind of leave Dan Vladar out of the stars of the game kind of material for me because they don't win that. Carolina doesn't win that game without Freddie Anderson in overtime the way he played. A couple of really big saves, especially in tight along the net. I'm thinking of the one that Michkov had that was a loose puck sitting there. Certainly that could go in just from proximity to the net, but it obviously it doesn't. And they make one big play there with a push at the end. And to be honest with you, I was starting to prepare myself at that stage of the overtime, prepare myself for the fact that get to the break and regroup, and you had a great overtime. You didn't score, but get to the break and see what happens when you come back out. And just like that, the puck's in the net. And that's the way it goes. So you have a chance to answer back. It's not like the series ends at 2-0, but it's definitely a lot harder now than anything else. But it also feels like this is kind of what was to be expected. This isn't Pittsburgh. This isn't a team that just barely, was fighting for a playoff spot the way you were. And when you've played as hard as they have, you've got, without Tippett, without, the idea that you've got other players who are banged up that you may have to keep a close eye on. There was a report after the game last night that Noah Cates was banged up and could be a question mark for game 3. So you're looking at all of those things. So maybe it's kind of where the run starts to meet its end, but it's a good experience because you weren't the team that's in Carolina's shoes right now that kind of feels like they got to make something happen for 5 years of consistency like this. They really have to make it happen. You're getting a good lesson on how to play. And I think it's especially good for the younger players like Martone and Michkov to experience this in this way and know what to expect when you're back there eventually.
What'd you think of the overtime goal they scored? I know some people were wondering if Hall was in the crease there.
Yeah, what people were looking at more than anything is, and it might be Stankoven's stick, I'm not sure, but a stick comes over top of the glove hand of Vladar. My guess, and I can only guess the way that the officials can only guess because it just is what it is. And goalie interference is such a gray area. Vladar's trying to cover the puck up and it's not in the crease at that moment. So I'm guessing that's why it's a good goal in that situation. There wasn't much of a reaction otherwise afterwards. Vladar maybe had a little bit of a reaction from what I heard going off of the ice, but it is what it is. You get a puck close to the net, strange things can happen. A guy gets a stick on it. It just is what it is.
All right. Well, I know next or Thursday night should be wild. I know the people even know it's 2-0. I would imagine the building is probably juiced up to see if they can will this team to 1, maybe 2 wins. It is a Thursday-Saturday schedule for the Flyers in Philadelphia, and you can listen to both games on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin Durso will be there covering the games. You can check out the coverage at 97.3ESPN.com. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, there he is. Of course, Durso has all the coverage at 97.3ESPN.com, at Kevin Durso. Get all his coverage, Instagram, X platform, keys to the game, recaps, stars, you name it. By the way, Phillies have made official Johan Duran is back. Trevor Richards has been traded to the White Sox just as a procedure thing to give him an opportunity to pitch. He pitched well the other day when he came in.
Not Mike Richards.
No, the Flyers could use him.
Yes, they could.
So Duran is back. Trevor Richards traded to the White Sox for cash. 5:46. We'll recap all the stuff. Close out the show coming up next. All right, getting ready to wrap up the show. 5:51, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the day. Very nice outside today. Enjoyed the weather out there, everybody. Tonight, just Phils. Just Phils. Christopher Sanchez on the mound for the Phils after a 1-0 win last night. Good to see the Phils. What, they win 7 out of 9 now? Something like that? 7 out of 9. Their win last night, coupled with a Braves. Well, they didn't play, but they lost on Sunday. That would put the Phillies 9.5 games out in National League East play. So still got a little mountain to climb after an awful start to the season. And early wild card, Phils are 5 back in the wild card, so they've kind of got a little ways to go there too. But St. Louis, San Diego, Cincinnati. How about Chase Petty last night? Started for Cincinnati. Got a no decision. Pitched at Wrigley Field. Said after the game it was a top 3 stadium that he wanted to pitch in, and he got to pitch there last night. Chase Petty went, I think it was 5. I got to bring up the box score from last night's game.
I was going to ask you, Mike, if you
5 2/3
were a rookie pitching in Major League Baseball, what would your top ballpark to pitch in?
Well, he did pitch 3 games last year, so he this is, I don't know if he's technically, I don't know how that works. I mean, last year he pitched 3 games. He making a spot start. I think he's going to go back to AAA. So I don't know if he's quote unquote a rookie or not, but he has pitched 3 games. I don't know. Wrigley would be there. I went to Fenway. I've been to Wrigley and Fenway. I feel like I loved them both. They were both awesome.
Well, I said you could pick 3. So you pick those 2. What's one more?
Maybe Camden Yards.
All right.
It's like the oldest of the news.
That's true.
Those would be possibly. Pittsburgh is really cool.
Everyone says that Pittsburgh Stadium is really nice.
It's very nice. So, by the
Shame
way,
their ball team's not nice.
they're not bad right now. First
They're
place,
okay.
right? Or winning record. I don't know if they're in first, but I think
They're in first place.
I think Cincinnati's in first. Actually, no. The Cubs are in first. St. Louis, and then Cincinnati, then Pittsburgh. Every team in the Central is over 500.
That's correct.
Pittsburgh's won 3 straight, by the way. They're better than the Phillies right now, 19-16. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, 15-20. They'll play the A's, who are in first place in the American League West. Yes, no one expected that. All right, we're back again tomorrow. Phillies fastball tomorrow. No games to recap tonight on the playoff side. You got a little night off.
I'm looking forward to it. I got a lot of stuff to catch up on.
I know. I got to watch the last episode of the Hulk Hogan thing. I'm 3 in. It's been okay. Kind of a fluff peach.
I got to watch the Pick Is In on the ESPN.
I watched that, most of it. I have like another 20 minutes left to go. I saw the whole Roseman and Cowboy stuff. We'll talk tomorrow.